Kai died in a traffic accident and didn't even get the honor of being hit by the legendary truck Kun, only to wake up inside the fantasy RPG he had been playing. But instead of becoming the legendary hero, he reincarnated as a low-level bandit guarding 3 kidnapped girls. Knowing every villain in this world eventually meets a horrible end, Kai planned to escape before it was too late. But when one of the girls reached through the cage and begged him to save her, he couldn't abandon them. Using his knowledge of the game, Kai carried all 3 captives to his hidden base and gave them legendary potions capable of healing any injury or illness. To Kai, they were just old items from his game inventory. But to everyone else, each potion was worth more than an entire castle. Now the Empire believes he is a terrifying secret agent who conquered a level 8 dungeon. Powerful nobles are desperately searching for him, and the 3 girls he rescued refused to let him disappear from their lives. On a certain peaceful day in the city of Aldea, everything seems quiet around the Grand Estate Gate. Suddenly, an energetic red-haired girl grabs our MC's arm, happily shouting that she finally found him and urging him to hurry up and leave with her. Right beside her, another cheerful red-haired girl smiles warmly, clapping her hands and encouraging him to hurry along as well. Fast forward to a completely different day, and we see our main guy sitting quietly at a local tavern table, enjoying his drink in peace. Out of nowhere, a pretty white-haired girl wearing a veil startles him mid-sip, leaning in close and exclaiming that she finally found him at last. She gently holds onto his arm with a soft smile, passionately insisting that he simply must come visit her family estate. Standing right behind her is another identical white-haired lady, beaming with pure happiness at the sight of him. On yet another day back at the tavern, a wild blonde girl Remy aggressively grabs his sleeve, demanding that he play with her right now. Our MC casually tries to reject her by explaining he's way too busy today, which immediately leaves Remy completely stunned and offended. Refusing to take no for an answer, Remy furiously pulls on his arm, complaining that she finally has free time today so he has no choice but to entertain her. Before things get out of hand, a gentle older blonde woman wearing a stylish hat steps in. Smiling softly, she suggests he play with Remy for just a little bit. Completely drained and confused by all these girls constantly bugging him, our MC wonders how his life ended up like this, taking us back to where it all began. Rewinding back to a dark forest at night, a rough-looking bandit angrily calls out to the newest recruit in their mercenary group. That new guy is our protagonist, Kai, who nervously answers back while still trying to make sense of his surroundings. The bandit boss orders Kai to keep a sharp lookout while the rest of them sleep, reminding him he's getting paid well just for hauling luggage from the city of Waihao. Smirking, the boss adds that if the hostages start making noise, Kai should rough them up a bit, leaving Kai to anxiously nod along. The bandit chuckles as he walks off to bed, remarking that those captives probably don't even have the energy to make a sound anyway. Left completely alone in the dark night, Kai stares down at his hands with a deeply troubled look on his face. Panicking internally, he grabs his head in utter distress, wondering how on earth his life turned into such a dangerous mess. He recalls that the last thing he remembers from his past life was getting caught in a fatal traffic accident, realizing he must have died back then. Waking up inside this unfamiliar body in the middle of a random forest leaves him utterly confused and lost. But as he looks up at the night sky and spots 2 distinct crescent moons hanging above, a strange sense of familiarity hits him. Kai suddenly realizes this is the exact world of Fancy Roomy Fantasy, an RPG game he was playing just the other day before his death. Shifting his focus back to the immediate danger, he realizes he's currently working as a minion for bandits involved in an evil scheme. Curious about what kind of shady business he got dragged into, Kai slowly walks through the dark woods toward the transport carriage. As he gets closer to the back of the wagon, he notices sturdy iron bars hidden underneath the cloth cover. Seeing an actual prison cage built onto the carriage shocks him, confirming his worst suspicions about his employer's operations. Looking inside the dark cage, he spots 3 shadowed female figures tied up together, realizing these are the hostages the bandit mentioned. Remembering that villains in this game world always meet a terrible fate, Kai realizes staying with these criminals is a fast track to getting executed. Our MC immediately decides that his best move is to pack his things and get as far away from this bandit camp as humanly possible. Sneaking around the camp, he steals some money and a map, convincing himself that robbing bad guys definitely won't hurt his karma. Checking the map, he spots Cadia Forest and the city of Aldea, feeling confident that his game knowledge will help him make a clean escape. But right before taking off, he holds his lantern up and pauses, unable to ignore his conscience. Deciding he can't just leave innocent captives to suffer, Kai tiptoes over the iron cage and whispers softly to get their attention. As the lantern light reveals 3 weak and bruised girls inside, Kai kindly offers to free them so they can all escape the camp together. Hearing the word escape, the red-haired girl looks up in shock, while the white-haired girl trembles timidly beside her. Suffering from severe trauma, the red-haired girl glares at him angrily, assuming he's just playing a cruel game to trick them. Tears streaming down her eyes, the white-haired girl asks him why on earth they should trust a guard after everything they've been put through. Her heartbreaking distress catches Kai completely off guard, leaving him totally speechless as he realizes how terrified they are. Taking his silence as proof, the red-haired girl mockingly smirks, taunting him that his little mind game failed completely. Thinking on his feet, Kai bows deeply and apologizes, lying that he was an undercover agent who took a long time to infiltrate the bandit ranks. Holding up his lantern with a serious expression, he lies through his teeth, claiming to be an intelligence officer operating as a spy. Though he knows he's making up wild lies on the spot, Kai prioritizes convincing them he's an ally so they will accept his help. Sweating nervously, he urges them to hurry, pointing out that if the bandits catch him breaking them out, he's as good as dead. The red-haired girl looks down sorrowfully, admitting that even if she wants to flee, her bad legs make it impossible for her to run away. The white-haired girl softly adds that she is completely blind, making escape equally impossible for her without assistance. Meanwhile, little Remy lies completely emaciated on the floor, rendered helpless due to severe weakness and illness. They despair that even if they left the cage, their physical conditions mean they would just end up dying out in the cold forest. Grateful for his intentions, the girls thank him softly, saying that simply knowing he isn't an enemy brings them comfort. Kai stares at them in silence, feeling a heavy weight in his heart after hearing their heartbreaking plight. Suddenly, young Remy groans in pain, her weak fingers trembling against the wooden floor. Desperate for survival, Remy reaches out a trembling hand toward Kai, crying out softly for someone to save her. Seeing her plea hits Kai like a brick wall, shattering any lingering hesitation in his mind. Clenching his fist, Kai firmly declares that escaping is better than rotting in a cage, promising to carry them if they can't walk. Surprised by his sudden resolve, the red-haired girl looks up in shock, wondering how he could possibly carry all three of them. Reassuring them with a confident tone, Kai explains that he has a map and knows this entire forest like the back of his hand. He reaches out his hand and instructs the two girls to hold tightly onto him so they can move out quickly. With impressive strength, Kai carries sick Remy on his back, holds the red-haired girl in his arms, and guides the blind white-haired girl into the night. Carrying all three girls effortlessly, Kai marvels at his new body's physical strength, which is far superior to his previous frail physique. Shaking off the distraction, he mentally yells at himself to stay focused on the escape while the girls cling to him nervously. As they navigate the dark woods, Kai feels relieved that the bandits haven't noticed their disappearance yet, giving them a valuable head start. He recalls the map he stole earlier, cross-referencing it with his deep knowledge of fancy roomy fantasies world layout. Looking back at his game memories, he remembers that even the name of the nearby city, Aldea, matches his custom playthrough save file. Realizing the layout is identical to his personal game, Kai wonders if his actual saved player data was transferred into this reality along with him. Realizing his game data exists here, a brilliant plan forms in his mind as he realizes exactly where to find a safe shelter. After walking through the thick wilderness for a long time, Kai begins to catch his breath from the heavy physical burden. At last, they arrive at a hidden wooden treehouse built high up in a giant ancient tree deep within Cadia Forest. Feeling the change in environment, the blind white-haired girl softly asks where he has brought them. Setting them down near the entrance, Kai lies once again, telling them this treehouse is a secret hideout he built himself. Spotting an ancient stone monument covered in mysterious glowing runes near the door, Kai remembers how to unlock the hidden entrance. He asks the girls to wait patiently for a moment while he prepares to unlock the safe house for them. Recalling the exact secret password from his game, Kai places his hand on the stone and activates the magical security circle. A surge of brilliant blue mana surges from the seal, unsealing the heavy wooden door into the hidden sanctuary. Stepping inside the dusty wooden hideout, Kai is relieved to find his custom game house fully intact and safe from outsiders. He gently carries sick little Remy inside first, making sure she's comfortable while she continues to rest weakly. Witnessing him open a magically locked hidden treehouse, the red-haired girl stammers in disbelief, asking if he's really just a simple spy. Guided into the house, the white-haired girl expresses her complete awe that an agent could build such a secret sanctuary deep in the forest. Surprised himself that his game's secret base actually exists, Kai quickly brushes off their suspicion and tells them it's no big deal. Looking down at sickly Remy lying pale and unconscious, the two girls express their deep worry over whether she'll survive her severe illness. Kai rubs his chin thoughtfully, hoping that the emergency supply stash he accumulated in his game is still stored inside this hideout. Looking over at sick Remy, the red-haired girl anxiously asks if there's any food they can give her to eat. Kai reaches into a wooden storage chest inside the hideout, hesitating slightly as he thinks about what he has stored inside. To his relief, he finds rows of glowing purple potions neatly stored away, exactly as they were in his game inventory. When Kai pulls out a potion bottle, the red-haired girl gets angry, telling him not to joke around since regular medicine can't heal severe exhaustion. However, as the purple elixir glows brilliantly in his hand, the red-haired girl gasps in total disbelief. Kai casually examines the bottle, explaining that this isn't ordinary medicine, so it should have no trouble curing her. Stuttering in shock, the red-haired girl points a trembling finger at the potion, recognizing its rare purple color instantly. Kai boasts that as a completionist gamer he never kept low-tier items, making sure to hoard only the rarest elixirs. This legendary potion fully restores HP and MP, while instantly curing all injuries, hunger, and status ailments, though it was extremely hard to craft in the game. Kai offers 2 of these miracle potions directly to the shocked girls, leaving them completely speechless. Remembering he has 17 of these potions left, Kai realizes he'll never have to worry about money since they must be worth a fortune. Terrified by his unbelievable wealth and generosity, the red-haired girl stammers, demanding to know who he really is to give away such priceless items. Kai hands her the elixir with a mysterious smile, telling her that it's better for both of them if she doesn't ask questions. He urges the two girls to drink some of the elixir themselves to recover their strength. He cheekily adds that he doesn't feel like lugging all three of them around outside anymore, since a huge pain. Tearing up in disbelief, the blind white-haired girl timidly asks if such a legendary elixir really exists and if there's one for her too. Reassurance warm in his voice, Kai hands a bottle directly into her hands, confirming that there is plenty for her as well. Overwhelmed with emotion, the white-haired girl holds the miracle potion close to her chest, crying happy tears. Kneeling next to unconscious little Remy, Kai gently prepares to feed her the medicine so she can finally heal. He carefully lifts her head and pours the miraculous purple elixir into her mouth. As soon as the potion enters her system, a warm magical light erupts around Remy's body, instigating an instant recovery process. Watching the magic happen right before his eyes, Kai is genuinely impressed by the elixir's dramatic healing power. Opening her vibrant turquoise eyes, Remy wakes up completely healthy and blushes softly as she thanks Kai for saving her life. Kai offers her a gentle smile and tells her to rest, noting that even a miracle potion takes time to cure mental fatigue. With Remy out of danger, the attention shifts back to the other two girls who drank the potion. Hearing a noise behind him, Kai turns around and notices the empty potion bottles rolling across the floor. To his amazement, both the red-haired girl and the white girl are standing tall on their feet, glowing with vibrant energy. RMC smugly imagines the massive reward he'll demand after delivering them home safely, but his thoughts are interrupted by loud sobbing. The white-haired girl weeps with joy that her blindness is completely gone, while the red-haired girl cries tears of happiness upon realizing she can walk again. Watching their emotional outburst, Kai sighs softly, realizing just how much excruciating pain and trauma they must have endured. He quietly decides to give them space to cry and celebrate as time skips forward to the morning of the following day. The next morning, Kai sits on the couch in shock after learning the girls were originally kidnapped all the way from the city of Aldea. He slumps back with a heavy sigh, realizing that escorting them back on foot across multiple towns is going to take forever. Annoyed by his complaint, the red-haired girl fumes with angry cheeks, telling him to take it up with his fellow bandit colleagues who kidnapped them. When Kai casually asks if any of them can use warp magic, the girls yell that if they knew high-level teleportation, they would have escaped long ago. Kai laughs off his dumb question with an awkward smile, acknowledging that their point is completely fair. Checking his current character status, Kai realizes his stats are only average D to C rank with no high-tier teleportation spells unlocked. The white-haired girl adds that according to history, only one legendary figure in the entire world was ever capable of mastering warp magic. Accepting that teleportation is out of the question, Kai changes the subject to address their current situation. Sitting across from them, Kai asks the two girls how they are feeling after recovering from their long ordeal. Smiling softly, the white-haired girl winks as she admits that while she's still adjusting, her vision feels surprisingly clear and steady. Looking down with a slight blush, the red-haired girl timidly thanks him, confirming that her legs are completely healed now. Huffing proudly, she demands that he stop calling her "you," introducing her full noble name as Karen Dyer Aldi. The white-haired girl gracefully places a hand over her heart, formally introducing herself as Nina Quarry Ansich. Looking over at the sleeping blonde girl, Karen confirms that her full name is Remy Trulleri Albrera. Kai sweats nervously in silence, complaining to himself about how unnecessarily long and complicated these noble names are to memorize. Shifting back to business, Kai points out that returning to their hometown is the main problem, prompting Karen to ask if he'll protect them if enemies attack. To her surprise, Kai bluntly replies that he can't make any promises or guarantees regarding their survival. Shocked by his cold response, Karen panics and demands to know why he wouldn't protect them. Looking her dead in the eye, Kai seriously explains that no matter how powerful a fighter is, absolute safety never exists. He reminds himself that this real world involves actual bloodshed and death, meaning relying blindly on game mechanics could prove fatal. Karen flinches in anxiety as Kai reminds them that they currently have no idea how many bandits are searching for them or how strong they are. Nina listens intently as Kai emphasizes that avoiding combat altogether is the only guaranteed way for all of them to make it out alive. Holding hands nervously, the girls digest his stern warning that unlike video games, you only get one life in reality. Gesturing calmly, Kai makes it clear that their entire evacuation plan will focus strictly on stealth and avoiding enemy contact. Karen clutches the map close to her chest and asks if he actually has a specific escape strategy in mind. Kai scratches his cheek with an awkward grin, sheepishly admitting that she's putting him on the spot. An awkward silence fills the room as Karen and Nina stare at him in complete, dumbfounded disbelief. Quickly waving his hands to defend himself, Kai explains his theory that the bandits are likely heavily patrolling the nearby Wolfer town. Pointing at Wolfer town on the map, Kai explains that since it's the closest town, the enemies will naturally expect them to head there. Kneeling by the map, he proposes deterring south through the forest to reach a different settlement where they can buy a carriage ride. Karen blushes in embarrassment, gently reminding him that as kidnapped captives, they don't have a single coin on them. Kai casually pulls out a coin pouch stolen from the bandits, telling them to spend it all on new clothes and supplies to act like rich tourists. Touched by his extreme generosity, Nina looks at him with soft eyes, asking why he's going so far to help strangers. She points out that he gave them legendary elixirs and even risked his secret undercover identity as an intelligence agent just to rescue them. Realizing her logical questioning is poking holes in his fake spy persona, Kai sweats profusely as he struggles to improvise an answer. Flustered, Kai blushes red, scolding himself internally for being such a terrible liar and getting way too attached to helping them. Turning his head away in embarrassment, Kai makes up another lie, claiming he's only following strict direct orders from his superior, Master Parent. Suddenly, Kai feels an intense glare and turns to see young Remy lying on the couch, staring directly at him. Flustered by her sudden gaze, Kai waves his hands nervously, asking why she didn't tell anyone she was awake. Remy simply replies that she's awake now, leaving Kai sweating at her completely blank and unbothered reaction. Stretching his tired back, Kai changes the subject and instructs Karen and Nina to go wash off in the nearby river once night falls. Nina raises her hand softly, revealing that she actually knows purification magic and can easily clean all of them instantly. Kai tells the girls to use the magic on themselves, deciding to head to the river alone since he'd feel embarrassed letting kids clean him. Karen pouts with crossed arms, teasingly remarking that it's weird for a professional intelligence officer not to know basic cleansing magic. Kai immediately fires back with a bogus tactical rule, claiming relying on convenience gets spies caught, which actually impresses Karen further. Back inside, Nina extends her arms and casts a beautiful spell, enveloping Karen and Remy in a soothing magical aura that cleanses them. Meanwhile, down at the river, Kai enjoys a peaceful and refreshing bath in the crystal, clear water under the warm evening sun. Later that evening, now squeaky clean and refreshed, all four of them gather around the floor map to go over the final escape route. Adjusting his gloves with full determination, Kai announces that it's finally time to put their plan into action. Dressed head to toe in dark, intimidating plate armor, Kai turns to the three girls and announces that it's time to move out. 1 week later in the city of Aldea, a panicked knight commander at the gates yells at his soldiers to send word immediately. Wearing his full set of armor, Kai arrives at the city gate and observes that the guards have their hands completely full. Standing safely behind Kai in travel cloaks, Karen smirks, noting that the chaos makes total sense now that they have returned safely. Spotting them, the knight captain rushes over in utter relief, overjoyed to see that Lady Karen, Lady Nina, and Lady Remy are alive and well. Karen politely thanks the captain, but gives all the credit to Kai, declaring he is the sole reason they made it back alive. Hearing this, the knight captain bows deeply and frantically expresses his heartfelt gratitude, making Kai sweat inside his helmet. The captain urges the three ladies to wait safely inside the Gat house while an official noble escort is dispatched to retrieve them. Before heading inside, Nina turns to Kai with a timid expression, asking what he plans to do from here on. From behind his horned helmet, Kai casually answers that he plans to stay around town for a short while. Karen steps in to clarify, asking if he has any official duties or plans after delivering them. She specifically asks if he needs to report back to his spy superiors or contact his hidden organization. Realizing he doesn't actually have any superiors to report to, Kai decides to play along with his spy cover story for now. When the girls insist on taking him home to give him proper rewards, Kai firmly declines, telling them to settle it another time. Holding his head in fatigue, Kai reflects on how mentally exhausting it was to stay on high alert for a full week, wanting nothing more than a rest. Raising his armored hand, Kai sternly orders them to follow the guards inside, warning that they shouldn't relax until they're home. Karen pouts at his strictness while Nina smiles warmly, thanking him once again from the bottom of her heart. Kai then turns to little Remy, who is clinging tightly onto his armored arm and refusing to head inside. Remy pouts stubbornly, making a cute grunting noise as she clings to him with all her strength. With a gentle push, Kai finally watches the three young ladies walk safely into the gatehouse under guard escort. The knight captain bows aggressively once more, begging to compensate him properly while Kai awkwardly tells him it's unnecessary. Pointing a finger toward the town, Kai awkwardly asks if he can finally step inside and take a break. The captain enthusiastically welcomes him to Aldea, allowing Kai to finally walk through the beautiful city streets. As soon as Kai walks away, two subordinate guards rush up to the knight captain to speak with him. The young guard expresses awe at Kai's impressive aura, but the captain's expression turns deadly serious. Shaken with subtle fear, the captain declares that Kai is a complete monster based purely on his instincts. The captain reveals he used appraisal on Kai's armor, only to discover it's a legendary level 8 dungeon item with unknown powers. The guards gasp in horror at the mention of a level 8 dungeon, as the captain brings up the notorious criminal organization, Red Freed. He reminds them that Red Freed is an extremely dangerous syndicate, yet Kai single-handedly rescued the girls without a single scratch. Furthermore, the captain observed that Kai maintained a flawless tactical lookout even while walking into the city gate. The captain concludes that Kai is a battle-hardened war veteran, completely oblivious to Kai sneezing in the distance. The captain laments that he couldn't see the face of the mysterious hero hidden beneath that legendary armor. The guard nervously points out that letting an unidentified powerhouse into the city without checking his ID is technically a dereliction of duty. The captain defends his choice, explaining that irritating a man capable of defeating Red Freed would be absolute suicide for the town. The guards agree, noting that using 3 legendary elixirs effortlessly proves he must be a level 8 dungeon conqueror. Hearing about the legendary elixirs for the first time, the knight captain's eyes widen in sheer shock. The guard points out that Karen was walking completely normally, and all 3 young ladies had their incurable conditions cured. He adds that Kai casually gave away those priceless remedies, claiming he refuses to carry anything half-baked. The guards laugh at how insanely rich and absurd Kai is, until they notice their captain's face turning ghostly pale. Panicking completely, the captain screams at his men to immediately issue an emergency report on Kai to the highest authorities and the Hunter Association. The knight captain barks orders at his men to move immediately and deliver the report without wasting another second. The captain reflects on how Kai casually bantered with the daughters of the 3 greats and brushed off rewards worth a literal castle. Possessing gear from a level 8 dungeon, the captain is convinced that this mysterious warrior's true identity is unmistakable. He concludes that Kai must be an elite agent of Earthel, the secret security force under the direct command of the imperial capital. Meanwhile, our unaware MC Kai strolls down the vibrant and sunny Alger Street, enjoying the town scenery. Looking at the cobblestone roads and classic architecture, Kai notes that the town is an exact replica of his game world. In the distance, he easily spots the spires of the Treasure Hunters Guild, another familiar landmark from his playthrough. Although he wants to explore more, Kai sweats inside his helmet, admitting he's reaching his physical limit from wearing heavy plate armor. On top of the physical strain, Kai hates how much attention he's drawing from staring townspeople while walking around in full plate gear. When a passerby freezes in terror upon looking at him, Kai innocently wonders what everyone's problem is. Pondering to himself, Kai realizes he assumed full plate armor would be common around the city center, but he stands out like a sore thumb. He figures that since he equipped legendary game gear to boost his stats, it's natural for people to stare at such high-tier armor. Letting out a tired sigh, Kai decides to give up on sightseeing and head straight to an inn to finally rest. Suddenly, a young girl's excited voice behind him shouts in admiration, catching Kai off guard. Kai turns around to find a cheerful little girl in a yellow dress happily hugging his armored leg. Meanwhile, inside a grand noble estate, a red-haired duke cries hysterically upon seeing his daughter Karen return home safe. Karen's father clings to her weeping waterfalls, while Karen blushes in embarrassment and tells her dramatic dad to calm down. The tearful duke wails about how terrified he was for her safety, refusing to let go of his daughter. Wiping his tears, the duke listens in astonishment as Karen explains how a universal remedy completely cured her crippled leg. Karen twirls happily in a new dress, showing off her fully healed legs and reveling in her miraculous recovery. Her father is astounded, knowing that despite years of searching and vast wealth, he could never source that legendary cure. Blushing furiously, Karen explains how Kai casually handed her the priceless elixir without hesitation, telling her to pay him back someday. Reviewing the official report, her father confirms what the man who rescued Karen truly claimed to be a solo intelligence agent. Karen turns pale in realization, shocked to learn that her father wasn't the one who sent Kai to rescue her. The Duke shakes his head, pointing out that if he had connections to such a powerful figure, he would have cured her years ago. Karen panics, recalling Kai's excuse that he was acting on orders from above and told her to thank her parents. Her father thoughtfully deduces that Kai only made up that lie to keep the girls calm and ensure their safe return home. Karen grows even more confused, wondering why Kai would go through all that trouble when Nina and Remy didn't know him either. The Duke theorizes that Kai was investigating the Red Freed Syndicate, though his exact objective remains a complete mystery. The Duke warns that Kai might be a dangerous operative, but Karen passionately insists on sending a thank you letter to his organization. Her father forbids it, explaining that exposing an undercover spy's identity would only get him severely punished by his superiors. Karen gasps in surprise, asking if her father knows which organization Kai belongs to, and the Duke confirms he does. The Duke reveals a recent report stating that all the bandits who kidnapped her were arrested near Wahei Street 2 days ago. Karen remembers Kai pointing out Wahei Street on the map, realizing he anticipated the bandits' movements in advance. She raises her finger in epiphany, realizing Kai deliberately took the long southern route to avoid the enemy trap. The Duke nods in agreement, finding his strategic route choice completely consistent with an elite spy's intelligence. He reveals that the elite group responsible for capturing Red Freed was Werther, a secret agency under the capital. Karen's face turns pale with shock, immediately recognizing the terrifying reputation of the Werther organization. Werther is known as a feared imperial assassination unit tasked with maintaining order through ruthless force. Composed of top-tier treasure hunters, Werther represents the absolute peak elite assassins of the entire empire. The Duke reflects on Werther's feared reputation, suspecting Kai is a high-ranking operative permitted to act independently. Grasping Karen's shoulders, her father strictly orders her never to reveal Kai's identity or betray his goodwill. Sweating nervously, Karen nods in terrifying realization of how dangerous and influential their rescuer truly is. Determined to repay him, the Duke decides to search the city for anyone wearing that distinct jet black armor. He tells Karen to fetch Lifia, planning to use the 2 young girls to draw Kai out once he is spotted. Karen immediately agrees and dashes off to fulfill her father's urgent instructions. Once the door slams shut, her father sits back in his armchair and lets out a heavy sigh of relief. He vows to repay his debt to Kai no matter how long it takes, hoping Kai won't get punished by his organization for helping them. He knows the heads of the Ansage and Albra noble families are undoubtedly planning to search for their savior as well. The scene shifts to the next day at noon inside an Aldea tavern, where Kai eats a delicious steak meal in pure bliss. The friendly reddish-haired bartender laughs heartily, glad that Kai is enjoying the food, before casually asking a question. The bartender leans in and asks if Kai is the mysterious black, armored warrior everyone in town is talking about. The bartender praises him for his polite manners, contrasting him with the usual arrogant treasure hunters in town. Finishing his meal, Kai vaguely replies that he comes from pretty far away when asked about his hometown. Suddenly, the tavern door opens as a city guard steps inside to ask the tavern staff a question. Placing his hand on his chest, the guard urgently inquires if anyone matching the description of jet black armor has been seen. Both Kai and the bartender freeze in surprise, staring over at the guard at the entrance. Panicking internally, Kai frantically turns to the bartender with a nervous sweat drop. Pressing his hands together, Kai desperately begs the bartender to keep his presence a secret. The bartender panics, whispering that those guards belong directly to the powerful Duke's household. The guard impatiently repeats his question, asking if the black, armored man visited the tavern. Kai tearfully begs him, promising to take full responsibility and claim he forced the bartender if they get caught. Cracking under pressure, the bartender laughs awkwardly and lies to the guard, claiming no such person has been there. The guard turns around and leaves, allowing Kai and the bartender to breathe a sigh of relief. Just as the bartender asks Kai what kind of trouble he's in, another guard slams the door open. This time, a serene nun from the Holy Church steps inside with a divine aura, asking if the black armored man is hiding in the inn. The bartender turns pale upon seeing someone from the Holy Church, while Kai frantically begs him to lie one more time. Sweating profusely, the bartender forces another nervous smile and lies that the armored man hasn't come by. Accepting the answer politely, the nun thanks him for his time and leaves the establishment. Moments later, yet another guard bursts through the door asking if the black armored warrior was seen here. The bartender screams in despair upon realizing even the Treasure Hunters Guild is searching for Kai, while Kai ducks under the counter. Forcing a fake laugh once again, the poor bartender lies to the third search party. The female guard thanks him and steps out, wondering where on earth the armored warrior vanished to. Trembling with a ghostly pale face, the bartender slowly turns his head back toward Kai. Kai sweats profusely, looking utterly dazed and guilty for causing such massive chaos. Grabbing his head in sheer panic, the bartender screams at Kai, asking what he could have possibly done to have the big three factions hunting him. Kai turns pale himself, sheepishly admitting he has no idea and might have accidentally messed up without realizing it. The bartender slams his hands on the counter in anger, yelling at Kai to hurry up and figure out a way to resolve this mess. Surrounded by a dark aura of dread, Kai stares into space, panicking internally about how to escape this absurd situation. Meanwhile, in a luxurious estate, Karen's twin sister carefully checks Karen's legs, asking if she's truly fully healed and free of pain. Karen steps firmly onto the floor, reassuring Lifia that her leg is completely healthy and strong. Sitting back on her bed with a graceful smile, Karen warm-heartedly thanks her sister for all her support. Lifia sighs softly, admitting that while she's overjoyed Karen is cured, she feels a bit bittersweet about losing their daily bonding routine. Changing the subject, Lifia leans forward with a curious look in her bright blue eyes. Lifia wonders out loud why they still haven't found their savior, despite having reports of an armored man carrying a child around town. Karen speaks up with absolute conviction, stating that Kai is deliberately hiding to prevent them from tracking him down. Lifia nods solemnly, confirming that their father explained everything about Kai's secret background as a high-ranking operative. Karen worries if Kai is being punished by his superiors for using those elixirs, while Lifia gently tells her all they can do is pray for his safety. Karen blushes dramatically, realizing that Kai acted tough and claimed the elixir was worthless just so they wouldn't feel guilty accepting it. Lifia adds her own analysis, believing Kai acted like a rogue to conceal his ties to the secret imperial agency. Karen sighs internally, resting her chin on her hand while praying that Kai hasn't been severely disciplined by his organization. Lifia teases Karen for being so unusually flustered over a guy, secretly thinking she wouldn't mind if Karen fell for their hero. Winking playfully, Lifia giggles and teases her sister further, insisting that liking him is a wonderful thing. Flustered beyond belief, Karen puffs her cheeks with a red face, shouting at her sister in embarrassment. Lifia warmly praises Kai for risking his life and career to save them, prompting Karen to ask if Lifia met him earlier today. Lifia reveals she saw him for an hour, adding that Nina and Remy both expressed the exact same desire to see Kai again and thank him. Karen huffs competitively, declaring that she cares about Kai the most, which causes Lifia to laugh heartily at her cute reaction. Stomping her feet, Karen furiously denies being smitten, while her sister continues to chuckle behind her. Back at the tavern, the bartender wipes down a wooden mug, pointing out that hiding out inside the tavern forever isn't a sustainable long-term solution. He warns Kai that wild rumors are spreading like wildfire across Aldea and the search parties are only getting more intense. Sitting at the counter with his mug, Kai hopelessly copes that maybe the search parties are looking for a completely different guy in black armor. The bartender directly points at him, shutting down his denial by confirming Kai is the only person in the entire city who matches that description. The bartender warns that at best, Kai will be permanently banished from Aldea if the big three factions decide to declare him persona non grata. Stressed from hiding him, the pretender offers Kai some advice, warning him that attempting to switch ends now would only make him easier to spot. He reveals the staggering news that a bounty of 3 million legal has been placed on any information regarding Kai's whereabouts. Kai slams his hands on the counter in total shock, yelling at the bartender and asking why he hasn't cashed in on that fortune yet. The bartender explains that he already helped hide him, adding that he respects Kai because the big three seem to treat him as an insanely important figure. Kai tries to explain that he's completely unimportant, but the bartender just winks and gives him a thumbs up, believing Kai is just being modest. Realizing his days in Aldea might be numbered, Kai decides to enjoy one final day of sightseeing before putting his armor back on tomorrow. The bartender waves him off cheerfully, encouraging Kai to go out into the city and enjoy himself to the fullest. Strolling through the majestic streets, Kai admires the grand architecture, determined to appreciate the city even if he gets kicked out tomorrow. Munching on delicious local street food, Kai smiles warmly, feeling genuinely glad that he got the chance to explore this world. As the sun begins to set, the loud chime of a distant clock tower echoes throughout the entire city. Looking up at the illuminated clock tower, Kai remembers climbing it in his game playthrough and decides to visit the top one last time. Upon checking the entrance fee at the clock tower, Kai sweats in distress at how outrageously overpriced the tickets are. Deciding that money doesn't matter since he might be banned tomorrow anyway, Kai bites the bullet and climbs the grand spiral staircase. Reaching the top floor balcony, Kai steps out to enjoy the stunning panoramic view of Aldea at dusk. However, as he steps onto the observation deck, Kai pauses in surprise upon noticing someone else standing there before him. Standing on the high balcony is an elegant red-haired woman wearing a black ball gown and Venetian eye mask, bathed in the sunset glow. She turns her head gracefully, looking directly at Kai with a gentle, enigmatic smile that instantly commands his attention. Caught completely off guard by her stunning appearance, Kai blushes softly as he looks at the mysterious masked lady. Sweating awkwardly, Kai stammers out a polite greeting to break the tense silence between them. The red-haired masked lady smiles warmly and greets him back with composure and elegance. Kai remembers a rumor about a secret NPC in the clock tower, cautioning himself to stay on guard, just in case she's dangerous. The two stand side by side under the archways looking out at the panoramic sunset view of the city. Looking over her shoulder, Lufia remarks how lovely the view is and asks if it isn't perfect for clearing one's mind. Gazing out over the glowing orange rooftops of Aldea, Kai agrees that the view is indeed breathtaking. Turning back toward him, Lufia politely asks what brought him to such an elevated spot. Kai smiles faintly, admitting that he came up here for the exact same reason, to clear his head. She chuckles softly behind her mask, acknowledging his simple and honest response. Gliding gracefully across the stone balcony in her elegant dress, Lufia casually shifts the topic to something else. Kai's heart drops into his stomach as she directly asks if he knows anything about a man in jet black armor. Forcing a strained laugh, Kai nervously stammers that the black armored guy has indeed been the main topic of conversation. Placing a gloved hand on her chest, Lufia confesses that she is also searching for him and hopes to meet him in person. Cautiously testing her intentions, Kai asks if that black armored man did something bad to warrant such a massive hunt. Shocked by the suggestion, Lufia passionately refutes his claim, assuring him that the man did nothing wrong at all. Kai presses further, asking why so many noble guards and religious figures are frantically looking for him then. Closing her eyes gracefully, Lufia apologizes and states that the reason is strictly confidential noble business. Breathing a genuine sigh of relief, Kai accepts her answer, glad to know he isn't considered a criminal. Looking down at the street below, Lufia excuses herself, noticing her private horse carriage has arrived. Right as she turns to leave, Kai calls out to her, asking for one last quick word. With a gentle and reassuring smile, Kai softly tells her that there might be some progress in finding him soon. Touched by his thoughtful gesture, Lufia giggles softly and thanks him warmly for his concern. Lifting the hem of her gown, she curtsies with flawless elegance before taking her leave. Kai stands on the upper landing, quietly watching her descend the spiral staircase. Bathed in the golden dusklight, Kai wonders who that enigmatic, noble lady could possibly be. Cut to later that night, Lufia steps into her carriage, greeted by Karen, who is also wearing a masquerade mask. Karen excitedly explains that going out in disguise allows them to search the city for Kai without drawing unwanted attention. Lufia teases her that picking her up was just an excuse to look for Kai, making Karen panic and stutter cutely. Lufia giggles playfully, apologizing as she settles into the plush seats of the carriage. Taking off their masks inside the private carriage, Lufia warmly admits she's genuinely happy Karen came to get her. Shifting the conversation, Lufia mentions that she unexpectedly bumped into a fascinating stranger at the clock tower. Karen immediately becomes protective and suspicious, wondering if some stranger was trying to target Lufia's noble status. Lufia reassures her, explaining that while she was wary at first, talking to him proved he had no malicious intent whatsoever. Blushing softly, Lufia confesses that his casual and refreshingly honest tone made her time with him feel truly special. She adds that she even asked him about the black armored hero, though he didn't have any concrete information to share either. They discuss their father's theory that Kai might have left Aldea, though they note the gate guards haven't reported anything. Lifia then recalls Kai's mysterious parting words, mentioning that he hinted there might be some progress or movement soon. Intrigued by her sister's glowing praise, Karen asks Lifia to describe what this mysterious tourist looked like. Lifia describes him as a handsome gentleman with a scar near his eye, causing Karen to gasp in shock as she recognizes the description instantly. Lifia acknowledges that the tourist she met also had a scar on his left eye, matching Karen's description of their rescuer. Hearing this, Karen springs up from her seat in the carriage in complete shock and excitement. She pokes her head out the window and screams at the coachman to immediately turn the carriage back around to the clock tower. Lifia looks at her sister in utter confusion, asking what on earth has gotten into her all of a sudden. Karen points her finger intensely at Lifia, yelling that if he has a scar on his left eye, he is definitely their savior Kai. With a serious look, Karen admits that his facial scar was a secret between her father and her to protect his spy identity. Hearing that the friendly gentleman at the clock tower was actually their legendary rescuer leaves Lifia completely speechless. The horse carriage comes to a screeching halt directly outside the grand clock tower entrance. Karen flings open the carriage door, frantically stepping out into the night with Lifia right behind her. The two noble sisters sprint into the building at full speed, desperate to catch him before he vanishes again. Panting heavily, they push themselves up the endless spiral staircase toward the top balcony. Reaching the top floor balcony, they look around in heartbreak, only to find the deck completely empty. The scene shifts to the imposing exterior of the Aldea Treasure Hunter Guild building. Inside his office, branch manager Garag clutches his head in frustration, raging over the complete lack of information on Kai. Garag reviews the report from 3 days ago, noting that a warrior in jet black gear linked to Veltal entered the city. He reads how Kai single-handedly rescued the daughters of the 3 great houses and captured the entire Redfred criminal syndicate. Garag wipes his stressed eyes, concluding that Veltal must have dispatched this elite agent directly to handle the imperial threat. Looking over mountain piles of scattered intelligence documents, Garag finds his theory more believable by the second. Garag recalls strictly ordering all local treasure hunters never to approach or provoke the pitch-black warrior. To Garag's horror, he realizes that the little lost girl Kai carried in town the other day was his own daughter. He sweats profusely, remembering that his innocent daughter actually rode on top of the terrifying assassin's shoulder. Even worse, his wife bowed dramatically to apologize to Kai, blissfully unaware they were talking to an imperial monster. Though grateful his daughter was returned safely, Garag prays that this terrifying imperial agent leaves Aldea as soon as possible. Suddenly, the guild receptionist slams open his office door in utter panic, shouting that they have a massive emergency. When she reports that the pitch-black warrior himself has entered the guild hall, Garag slams his desk in sheer terror. Garag sweats bullets and clutches his forehead, cursing his terrible luck for having the elite assassin visit his branch. Downstairs, the heavy wooden entrance doors of the Treasure Hunter Guild swing wide open. Dressed in his full pitch-black plate armor, Kai strides menacingly toward the front counter as hunters murmur in awe. Garag rushes downstairs and bows deferentially, welcoming Kai to the guild with the utmost formal respect. Garag forces a polite smile, while the rough local hunters behind him stare in utter confusion at their branch manager's subservient tone. The clueless local hunters mockingly whisper among themselves, finding it hilarious that their scary branch manager is using polite honorifics. Garag's veins pop in frustration, inwardly cursing his ignorant subordinates for not realizing they are standing next to a living calamity. Sweating profusely, Garag nervously asks what official business brings such an august figure to his humble branch today. From behind his menacing horned helmet, Kai innocently replies that he's simply here on an observation tour. Garag's brain short-circuits as he tries to decipher the dark, hidden tactical meaning behind an observation tour. Noticing Garag's weird reaction, Kai tilts his armored head and asks if touring the guild isn't allowed. Garag panics, frantically waving his hands to assure the imperial agent that he is free to observe whatever he pleases. Overthinking everything, Garag assumes observation tour is top secret code for imperial reconnaissance on their guild operations. Seeing Kai's relaxed posture, Garag convinces himself that Kai already knows the guild investigated him and is flexing his sheer authority. Completely overwhelmed by his own vivid imagination, Garag shudderingly acknowledges that Kai is truly operating in a realm far beyond ordinary mortals. Garag reflects on his youth, recalling how he once dreamed of being recruited by Veltal, but was never selected despite his achievements. Looking at Kai's overwhelming presence, Garag realizes his own strength was never enough to enter the ranks of such genuine monsters. Kai politely asks if he can tour the branch manager's office, sending another wave of panic through Garag. Garag hastily agrees and invites him upstairs, while Kai decides to accept the offer and check out the office. Garag nervously leads the way upstairs, guiding the dark armored warrior toward his private quarters. Downstairs, the clueless local hunters watch in silence as Kai's dark cape disappears up the staircase. Sitting at a table, the hunters debate Kai's posture, speculating that he was deliberately baiting someone into attacking him. One hunter sinisterly suggests that Kai was waiting for an excuse to ruthlessly crush anyone who challenged him. Another hunter wipes his brow in relief, admitting someone would have taken the bait if the branch manager hadn't intervened. The female hunter trembles in fear, realizing that if Garag was that terrified, Kai must be an unstoppable force of nature. Staring at his own hands, the red-haired hunter solemnly acknowledges that none of them would last a second against Kai. The green-haired hunter speculates whether Kai or an S-rank monster would win in a bloodbath fight. Thus, an ever-escalating web of wild misunderstandings begins to spread rapidly across the entire city. Completely oblivious to the monstrous rumors about him, Kai is pushed into an increasingly chaotic position. Later outside the guild, Garag bows repeatedly, sweating as he politely bids Kai farewell. Shaken by Garag's intensely serious demeanor, Kai swears to himself never to step foot in the guild hall again. He reflects on how wearing his high-rank armor only brought more terrifying scrutiny from guards and religious figures alike. Kai panics internally, wondering why every single person in this city glares at him with the murderous eyes of an assassin. He complains to himself that Garag was supposed to be a rough NPC, not some overly polite and creepy gentleman. Holding his helmet in confusion, Kai ponders why he was treated like an ultra-important VIP during the entire tour. Looking out over the sunny streets, he sighs and tries to look on the bright side, considering it a decent experience. Taking a step forward, Kai considers where he should head next to pass the time safely. As a carriage passes him by Kai's size, realizing sightseeing in full plate armor is practically impossible. Suddenly, a carriage door slams open right beside him, and Karen leaps out shouting that she finally found him. Recognizing the crest on the carriage door, Kai remembers her as Karen Deer, the daughter of a high duke. Karen fumes with red cheeks, demanding to know where on earth he's been hiding after she spent all day searching for him. Kai holds up his hands awkwardly, sheepishly replying that he was just staying at a local inn. Karen fumes even harder, yelling that her family's search network received zero information about him being at an inn. Kai explains that he asked the bartender to keep his stay quiet, causing Karen to gasp in total shock. Karen stares at him with an intensely suspicious look, while Kai sweats nervously inside his helmet. Assuming it was a masterclass spy technique, Karen nods cutely, remarking that hiding from Imperial intel is right up his alley. Lifia steps gracefully out of the carriage, offering a warm smile, as she tells him it doesn't matter anyway. Lifia asks Karen how things are going, causing Karen to turn around happily and call her sister. Kai flinches in utter shock behind his visor, instantly recognizing her voice and red hair from the clock tower. Bowing gracefully without her mask, Lifia formally introduces herself as Lifia Dear Aldi, apologizing for her late introduction earlier. Lifia smiles warmly, expressing that words aren't enough to thank him for saving them, leaving Kai to nod awkwardly. With an inviting smile, Lifia politely asks Kai if he happens to have any free time to spare today. Cautious as ever, Kai asks what would happen if he said yes. When the sisters joyfully announce they want to take him to their noble mansion, Kai instantly replies that he is not free. Karen fumes at his blunt rejection while Lifia blinks in amused surprise at his quick denial. Inside his helmet, Kai panics internally, worried that despite saving them, acting impolitely toward high nobles could get him executed. Seeing his hesitant reaction, Karen and Lifia exchange mischievous smirks with each other. Soft hands reach out and gently grab onto Kai's heavy armored arm, coaxing him warmly. Karen beams with a sweet smile, begging him to at least let them properly express their gratitude. Lifia affectionately clings to his other side, assuring him that a luxurious and comfortable carriage is waiting just for him. Completely powerless against their persuasion, poor Kai is dragged along helplessly by the two energetic sisters. Moments later, Karen and Lifia sit side by side inside the carriage, smiling smugly at their successful trap. Sitting directly across from them in his heavy armor, Kai feels less like an honored guest and more like a prisoner taken into custody. Lifia formally explains that receiving their hero properly protects their family's noble prestige and justifies the citywide search effort. Kai nods thoughtfully with crossed arms, casually agreeing out loud even though he doesn't understand high politics at all. Shifting the mood, Karen looks up at him with a serious expression, wanting to ask a personal question while they have privacy. Before she can speak, Kai shudders in his armor and bluntly tells Karen that her trying to act so formal feels completely creepy. Offended by his blunt remark, Karen instantly drops her polite act, puffing her cheeks and yelling at him in her usual sassy tone. Kai gestures casually, admitting he prefers her normal attitude, before asking what she originally wanted to ask. Getting straight to the point, Karen asks about the night he rescued them, bringing up the multiple legendary elixirs he gave them. With genuine worry in her eyes, Karen asks if he was severely scolded by his agency, or forced to stay hidden due to wasting those rare items. Tilting his head in confusion, Kai clarifies that nobody scolded him since those potions were his own personal stash to begin with. Both Karen and Lifia freeze in total shock, gasping at his nonchalant admission. Overwhelmed by his selflessness, Karen leans forward intensely, asking if he's truly okay carrying such heavy imperial burdens all alone. Lifia places a hand on her chest, begging him to at least share the basic outline of his situation so their families can assist him. Question marks float above Kai's head as he sweats profusely, completely unable to comprehend why they are acting so dramatic. Realizing their wild misunderstandings have spun totally out of control, Kai panics internally about how to convince them he's perfectly fine. Trying his best to calm them down, Kai warmly explains that he has no regrets, and seeing her legs fully healed is more than enough reward for him. Offering a dashing smile behind his visor as blowing roses bloom around him, Kai declares he will solve his own problems, sending both sisters' hearts fluttering. Struck by his heroic charm, Karen and Lifia sit in complete silence, blushing beet red with wide, mesmerized eyes. Lifia bows deeply in awe while Kai sighs in relief, glad that his speech somehow managed to satisfy their concerns. As the carriage rolls into the estate grounds, Kai raises his hand and mentions that he actually has one favor to ask of them. Both sisters perk up attentively, asking what kind of request their legendary savior could possibly have for them. Kai clarifies that his request pertains directly to their upcoming meeting with their father, the Duke. With utmost seriousness, Kai asks them to step in and mediate if he accidentally acts rude and pisses off the powerful Duke. He promises that if they protect him from the Duke's wrath, he won't charge them a single coin for the legendary elixirs, leaving them in utter shock. Karen screams in disbelief, pointing out that waiving the price of multiple legendary elixirs for such a petty favor is completely insane. Kai insists he's dead serious, admitting that as an ordinary guy, high noble authority is the single scariest thing in the world to him. Inwardly, our MC reminds himself that guaranteeing his own survival against terrifying nobles is his absolute top priority. Once again, Karen and Lifia stare at him in deadpan silence, unable to comprehend his bizarre priorities. Lifia's sweat drops, assuming Kai is making up a half-hearted excuse just to avoid taking credit or payment from them. Karen inwardly scoffs, finding his attempt at acting like a scared ordinary civilian to be an embarrassingly weak cover-up. Kai remains standing straight in his armor, anxiously waiting for them to agree to his terms. Karen raises a finger and assures him that her father wouldn't dare get angry at the legendary warrior who saved his daughter. Lifia warmly accepts his request as well, allowing Kai to finally breathe a massive sigh of relief as the carriage arrives at the Duke's estate. As they ride through the city in the carriage, Karen curiously asks Lord Shikoku if he really plans on keeping his heavy armor on the entire time. Shikoku hesitates for a moment, wondering out loud if keeping his full armor on inside the carriage might actually be considered rude to them. Seeing his reaction, Karen quickly clarifies that she didn't mean it like that, explaining she was just worried the suit might be uncomfortable for him. However, her older sister chimes in with a subtle smile, cheekily admitting that she personally would love to see his real face. Hearing her sister's bold remark, Karen instantly flushes red and scolds her for being so blatantly rude to their savior. Taken aback by their sudden banter, Shikoku lifts his helmet, revealing his handsome face with a genuinely confused expression. Looking right at him, the older sister simply maintains her charming, gentle smile without breaking a single beat. In her mind, she can't help but admire how remarkably sincere he is, noting that despite his power, he remains humble and respects everyone around him. She realizes he stays fully geared purely out of duty, focusing entirely on acting as a guard just in case any danger arises during their trip. Watching her flustered younger sister, she understands exactly why Karen took such a liking to him, unlike the arrogant treasure hunters they usually meet. She reflects on how most famous figures in their world operate as they rise in status and power. Usually, the more renowned hunters achieve, the more envy and hostility they attract from those around them. As a result, most top-ranking hunters end up arrogantly flaunting their wealth and high status to show off. Yet Shikoku is completely different, remaining grounded despite possessing unmatched strength, even risking his life against a dangerous syndicate just to save Karen. She feels deeply indebted to him, touched by the fact that he never once exploited her family's vulnerable position, leaving her wondering how beloved he must be by those around him. Breaking the quiet atmosphere inside the carriage, Shikoku admits he's getting nervous, prompting Karen to roast him for acting anxious while wearing intimidating black armor. A bit hurt by her blunt insult, Shikoku playfully huffs back that it's unfortunate for her to have been saved by someone she considers so uncool. Karen instantly panics and gets defensive, loudly shouting that those are two completely different things and that she isn't ungrateful at all. Watching the two bicker, the older sister softly giggles, amused that an operative from Verdal, the Empire's terrifying secret organization, would claim to be nervous before a duke. She sees right through his act, realizing Shikoku only claimed to be nervous because he knew Karen needed attention and wanted to give her a chance to ban her. She recalls how, as daughters of a powerful duke, they constantly had to attend formal events and deal with other nobles, because of the noticeable age gap between Karen and the adult lords visiting their estate. And because those noble suitors were strictly focused on pursuing the older sister as a potential marriage candidate. None of the visiting aristocrats ever bothered to pay any attention or make time for young Karen in her wheelchair. So seeing Shikoku patiently humor Karen like this fills the older sister's heart with immense joy and appreciation. In fact, even before this trip, the moment Karen heard Shikoku was visiting the guild, she excitedly barged in to drag her sister along just to see him. She also recognizes that Shikoku agreed to ride inside their carriage solely out of consideration for her father's public reputation. Even when it came to the priceless miracle cure that finally healed Karen's legs after years of desperate searching, a divine potion valuable enough to buy an entire castle, Shikoku brushed off any grand reward, asking only that she calm her father down if he got upset. Overwhelmed by his incredible selflessness, she genuinely wonders if anyone else with such a noble character could possibly exist in this world. Feeling her heart beat wildly against her chest, she blushes softly as she ponders how she can find a way to stay involved in his life. Gathering her courage, she speaks up and directly asks Shikoku how long he plans on staying in the city. With a gentle smile, she offers to personally arrange a comfortable residence for him if he decides to make the city his home. Looking out at the scenic streets, Shikoku casually replies that while it's a nice place, staying depends entirely on his mood at the moment. She immediately overthinks his casual response, assuming he meant his stay depends on classified orders from his secret superiors. To her, every single action Shikoku takes carries immense weight, quietly saving countless lives from the shadows. Realizing how many people need his help just as Karen did, she wonders if trying to keep him by her side is just her own selfishness. But as she stares at him, a spark of quiet determination settles deep inside her eyes. Unaware of the intense romantic and political thoughts swirling in her head, Shikoku simply scratches his helmet while pondering his next move. Moments later, the carriage rolls to a stop as the doors open, with the servants and knights bowing to welcome them to the Grand Dire Aldi-Jukal estate. Stepping out of the carriage, Shikoku is completely thrown off by the lavish reception of estate servants bowing to welcome him. With a sweet smile, the older sister reassures him that this grand entrance greeting simply their family's way of showing proper respect. As he steps down onto the courtyard, Shikoku insists that such high-level treatment is completely unnecessary for someone like him. He worries that being treated with such deference by top nobility will cause trouble, but she assures him everyone agreed on this decision. She casually adds with a cheerful smile that anyone who dares object to honoring him will be dealt with appropriately by her house. Shikoku breaks into a cold sweat beneath his helmet, realizing that her gentle demeanor conceals a terrifyingly strict authority. Glancing at Karen's smug expression, he mentally prays for whoever might accidentally cross these formidable noble sisters. The head maid and the captain of the guard formally step forward, bowing deeply as they express their sincere gratitude for his visit. Adjusting her glasses, the head maid informs him that the Duke and Duchess are awaiting him inside, offering to guide him personally. Karen and her sister wave goodbye at the entrance, wishing him a good meeting as Shikoku wonders why they aren't coming along. Karen explains that they are parting ways for now, so they won't disturb or get in the way of his high-level discussion with their parents. Her sister adds that they will be waiting right next door in case a specific important matter comes up during the conversation. She promises that if any assistance or intervention is required regarding that issue, they will step in right away. Wishing he had them by his side for moral support, Shikoku internally sighs before turning to address the captain of the guard. The moment Shikoku stammers out a polite greeting, the captain of the guard snaps to attention with absolute discipline. Shaking off his nervousness, Shikoku unbuckles his sword scabbard and politely asks the captain to hold on to his weapon while he visits the Duke. The guard captain looks back at him in sheer shock, unable to believe a warrior of his legendary status is willingly surrendering his blade. Karen immediately interjects, reminding him that he kept that blade by his side the entire trip and assuring him that no one suspects him of betrayal. Shikoku hands the sword over anyway, explaining that as guards, it is their duty to enforce security rules and disarm visitors regardless of who they are. He then nonchalantly drops a bombshell that he's actually even stronger in hand-to-hand combat without a weapon, leaving the guard captain completely speechless. Hearing his unbelievably casual flex, Karen, her sister, and the head maid all freeze on the spot in absolute disbelief. Overwhelmed with profound admiration, the guard captain vows to guard his sacred weapon with his very life. Shikoku nods along smoothly, though internally he admits to himself that he wasn't joking about his weapon preference in the slightest. After reincarnating into this world, he quickly learned that swinging heavy weapons in real life required far more physical coordination than simply playing a game. Knowing he'd easily leave himself open to fatal strikes during weapon combat, he realized throwing punches with his absurd stats was a million times safer and more effective. So handing over a sword he can barely use is no big deal to him, though another deeper anxiety weighs on his mind. He knows there's no turning back now, and the prospect of facing a high-tier duke holding true political authority genuinely frightens him. Interrupting his internal panic, the head maid politely motions for him to follow her into the mansion. Taking a deep breath inside his steel helm, Shikoku turns away and prepares himself for the high-stakes encounter. As he steps through the grand entrance of the ducal manor, he can only pray that his meeting with the master of the house goes smoothly. Meanwhile, the weapon he surrendered is revealed to be Dullahan, one of the supreme great blades of this world. An indestructible sword that never chips regardless of what it hits, its sole drawback being a chaotic stat modifier that constantly fluctuates the wielder's luck. Recalling Shikoku casually granting permission to inspect the legendary weapon, the guard captain holds the scabbard with shaking hands. While Shikoku vanishes into the hallway with the maid, Karen and the guard captain remain outside in the courtyard staring at the blade. Not wasting a single second, Karen turns around and immediately dashes at full speed back toward the guard captain. She corners the captain with star-shaped sparkles in her eyes, completely unable to contain her hype. Vibrating with excitement, Karen begs him to unsheathe the legendary weapon so she can finally admire its legendary beauty up close. The guard captain's sweat drops awkwardly at her intense enthusiasm, while her older sister can only sigh at Karen's relentless curiosity. Slowly drawing the blade slightly out of its sheath, the captain marvels at its gemstone-like gleam, though he privately doubts its actual battle durability. But the moment the full length of the blade is revealed, both Karen and the guard captain are left entirely mesmerized by its radiant aura. Karen curiously asks the head guard about Shikoku's combat style, and the captain guesses he's an agile technical fighter who overwhelms enemies with speed and technique. Wanting her to hold it safely, the guard captain carefully instructs Karen to grip the sword handle firmly with both hands. He asks if she's ready as he slowly prepares to release his grip on the heavy weapon. The moment he lets go, Karen's face instantly drops in sheer shock as the true weight of the blade hits her. Caught completely off guard by how absurdly heavy it is, Karen groans while her sister and the captain panic. Unable to support the crushing weight, Karen loses her grip and accidentally drops the sword straight toward the ground. The razor's sharp blade drops and effortlessly slices straight into the hard stone pavement like hot butter. Everyone freezes in complete silence, staring at the priceless sword now lodged deep inside the estate courtyard tiles. The razor's sharp edge sits embedded in the broken paving stone without showing even a single dent or scratch. Realizing they just accidentally ruined the estate courtyard with a guessed weapon, panic washes over all three of them. The captain realizes that if a casual drop effortlessly sliced stone without chipping, no armor in the world could withstand a real strike from this blade. Sheathing the weapon back up, the captain thinks back to rumors about Shikoku belonging to the secret organization Valir. Recalling Shikoku's claim that he's even stronger barehanded, the captain becomes utterly convinced that Shikoku is indeed a top-tier monster from Valir. To cover up the chaotic incident, the older sister Sweat drops and offers to personally report the damaged pavement to their father. Meanwhile, in the waiting room next door, the two sisters sit quietly on the sofa as muffled booming noises echo through the wall. They overhear the formal, intense conversation taking place between their father and Shikoku on the other side. Karen turns to her sister with a worried look, suspecting something uncomfortable is happening in the meeting room. Her sister sighs in agreement, realizing their father deliberately excluded them so he wouldn't lose face in front of Shikoku. Just by listening to the tone of her father's voice through the door, she can tell the Duke is bowing deeply to Shikoku in gratitude. She knows her father has always maintained a proud, unyielding front to protect his family's standing as a duke from ambitious enemies. Yet hearing her proud father set aside his dignity to bow fills her heart with bittersweet emotion. Karen lowers her head in guilt, feeling terrible that Shikoku's incredible favor forced their father to bow down in gratitude. Sensing Karen's growing guilt, the older sister glances over at her with a gentle, reassuring look. She softly speaks up, asking Karen if she really has the time to sit around feeling down right now. Caught off guard by her sister's sudden question, Karen blinks back in confusion. Her sister playfully reminds her that she still has to account for slicing up the courtyard's expensive stone pavement. She teasingly points out that those paving stones were carefully hand-selected by their father, leaving Karen sweating bullets. Chibi Karen starts weeping comical tears, whining about how she's always causing chaos wherever she goes. Her sister jokes that their father might praise her as a master swordsman instead, but Karen frantically denies having any strength in that slash. She waves her hands around flusteredly, complaining about how absurdly sharp and terrifying Shikoku's sword was. Resting her chin on her hand, Karen promises to be a dutiful daughter from now on to make up for all the trouble she's caused. Her sister recalls Shikoku's earlier advice to Karen about finally enjoying life to her heart's content now that her legs are healed. With a radiant smile, her sister reminds Karen that she has a bright future ahead of her to enjoy rather than feeling down. Touched by her sister's comforting words, Karen nods gently with a sweet, genuine smile. Reflecting back on Shikoku's humility, her sister notes that even though he tried to downplay his heroic deed, they must never forget that he cured Karen's legs even at the potential risk of injuring the Emperor himself. She reiterates her deep desire to properly repay him, stating she is willing to grant any request he asks of their family. Karen wonders why Shikoku refuses to accept grand rewards, guessing that helping people just feels completely natural to a hero like him. Karen points out that no ordinary person turns down immense wealth, which her sister agrees with as she reflects on noble rewards. After all, receiving a reward from a high duke usually means receiving massive lands, noble titles, or enough fortune to live in luxury for generations. A duke's gratitude can even include setting someone up with a prominent marriage partner, effectively granting virtually any realistic request imaginable. Reflecting on the mysterious events at the clock tower, the older sister secretly hopes to find another opportunity to see his real face again. Meanwhile, Karen nervously twitches on the couch, desperately hoping her sister doesn't get to lay eyes on Shikoku's face. Karen bluntly accuses her sister of being obsessed with Shikoku and trying to monopolize him, causing the older sister to blush and flusteringly deny it. Karen playfully winks, teasingly offering to describe what Shikoku looks like beyond the scar near his eye if her sister admits the truth. The older sister glares back at Karen, sparking a silent, intense battle of gazes between the two competitive sisters. Electric sparks literally crackle in the air as their sibling rivalry over Shikoku reaches a hilarious breaking point. After their intense staring contest, an awkward, heavy silence falls over the waiting room once again. Pouting softly, the older sister stammers to herself that she doesn't want to monopolize him, but is simply curious about who he is. Karen stubbornly turns her head away, playfully declaring that she'll make extra sure her sister never gets to see his face. Her sister blushes bright red, flustered beyond belief at Karen's relentless teasing. Meanwhile, inside the main drawing room, the Duke and Duchess sit directly across from Shikoku to conduct their official meeting. Facing the imposing figure clad in full dark armor, both the Duke and Duchess sweat nervously in sheer confusion. Duke de Goat finds himself completely baffled, unable to comprehend why the armored warrior before him keeps taking such unexpected actions. Clasping his hands tightly, the Duke mentally wrestles with why Shikoku is being so absurdly polite and considerate toward them. Knowing they owe him an unpayable debt, the Duke realizes Shikoku is deliberately acting humble so as not to lessen the Duke's authority. The Duke grows suspicious, realizing there's no logical reason for a powerful figure like Shikoku to show such restraint without demanding anything in return. He knows Shikoku holds all the leverage and could easily demand massive fortunes, land, or immense political favors. And Shikoku certainly knows the ducal house would have no choice but to honor whatever insane demand he presented. With mysterious backing tied directly to the Emperor, Shikoku possesses authority that far outranks even a high-ranking duke. Ordinarily, any normal treasure hunter or mercenary would gladly accept lavish rewards and praise without hesitation. If Shikoku wanted to hide his true identity, acting normal and taking a standard reward would have drawn far less suspicion than being humble. Sweating profusely, the Duke and Duchess begin to panic internally, wondering if Shikoku's humility is actually a sinister political test. Despite his growing anxiety, the Duke admits that Shikoku makes a far better impression than any noble he's ever met. Yet behind that polite posture, Shikoku feels like an utterly terrifying, readable enigma. The Duke convinces himself that Shikoku is secretly assessing how a true leader handles a debt of honor. In the Duke's overthinking mind, Shikoku's silent armor projects an overwhelming, terrifying pressure that crushes the room. Sending their savior away empty-handed would forever stain the ducal family's honor and spark disastrous rumors. Realizing he's up against an immovable wall, the Duke despairs over his inability to find any weakness or opening to repay the debt. He interprets Shikoku's actions as a stern warning. Since he sacrificed a divine elixir for Karen, the Duke must never allow his house to decline. Feeling completely outplayed, the Duke chastises himself for being so pathetic compared to the grand vision of their savior. Shaking off his self-pity, the Duke looks at his wife with renewed resolve, considering it a divine blessing to have crossed paths with Shikoku. Stealing his courage, the Duke bows his head and begs Shikoku to allow them to make an official proposal to restore their house's honor. Completely oblivious to the Duke's complex political spiral, a sweating Shikoku nervously agrees to hear them out within reason. The Duchess smiles warmly in relief, expressing how deeply honored they are that he granted them permission. Raising 3 fingers, the Duke proudly announces that they will bestow 3 immense gifts of gratitude upon him. Shikoku almost leaps out of his seat as the Duke offers him a private luxury villa, a massive reward, and the official backing of the ducal house. Bowing together in perfect harmony, the Duke and Duchess earnestly urge him to accept all 3 gifts. Internally, the Duke smiles in triumph, confident that giving Shikoku a villa grants the secret operative a perfect base of operations in Ventol. And in return, their family secures a powerful direct connection to a legendary agent of the imperial capital. Blushing with relief inside his helmet, Shikoku stammers that he will gratefully accept their lavish offering. Seeing Shikoku accept, the Duke lets out a quiet sigh of relief, proud that he correctly navigated this delicate political test. The Duke then asks if he has time today to let his daughters guide him through the villa's location and interior. Shikoku warmly thanks him for the kindness, agreeing to let the 2 sisters show him around the property. The Duke turns to his wife, asking her to escort Shikoku back to the waiting room where their daughters are resting. Standing up, the Duchess politely asks Shikoku to follow her, and he nods in agreement. As Shikoku gives a polite bow before leaving, the Duke's sweat drops awkwardly, physically exhausted from the high-stakes conversation. Left alone in the room, the Duke looks down at his trembling hand, realizing just how much stress he was under. Running a hand through his hair, he marvels at what an unbelievably formidable and legendary man saved his daughter. Back in the waiting room with the sisters, Shikoku lets out a massive sigh, admitting the meeting was totally nerve-wracking. Karen blinks in disbelief, remarking that he certainly didn't look nervous at all from the outside. Shikoku points to his full armor, chuckling that his intimidating helmet completely hid his panicked face. Her sister giggles warmly and invites him to make himself at home, which brings him instant comfort. Changing the subject, Karen bluntly tells him he should start acting a bit better given his new reward, leaving Shikoku confused. She explains that anyone receiving a reward from a duke should be bursting with excitement instead of remaining so stoic. Shikoku internally freaks out, insisting he is actually overjoyed since he was practically broke before this. But thinking logically, receiving a whole mansion and a fortune out of nowhere genuinely terrifies his inner civilian. He admits to himself that if he were alone, he'd be doing celebratory fist pumps all over the room. Looking at him with a serious expression, the older sister hesitatingly speaks up to ask him a private question. She asks if he is truly satisfied with just the villa and money, gently reminding him he could demand even more from her family. Shikoku internally screams in confusion, baffled why anyone wouldn't be satisfied with a free villa and cash. Clearing his throat, Shikoku puts on his mature persona, telling her not to worry since this was agreed upon between adults. He then turns the question back on them, asking if they feel sad giving away a property they might be attached to. The sister laughs brightly, and Karen casually reveals their family owns so many villas across the realm that losing one means nothing to them. Karen then warns him that living alone in that specific villa might be overwhelming and intimidating. Her sister explains that while its garden is slightly smaller than their main estate, the mansion itself is practically the same massive size. Shikoku realizes in sheer horror that his new villa isn't a cozy house but a giant, multi-story castle-like mansion. Sweating bullets inside his helm, Shikoku mentally reminds himself just how absurdly terrifying rich nobles are. The older sister then asks if he plans to bring companions to live with him or use the mansion as an official operational base. Shikoku replies that it will serve as his base, confirming that for now, he intends to reside there alone. She subtly probes if he has a mistress or partner, claiming a famous hero like him couldn't possibly be single, which he quickly denies. Pressing further, she eagerly asks if he isn't interested in romance, leaving Shikoku flustered as he tries to dodge the question. Karen whispers to her sister that Shikoku is just being arrogant because no one matches his high standards, causing Shikoku to melt in despair. Quickly steering the conversation away, Shikoku warmly invites both sisters to come visit his new villa whenever they want. Hearing his invitation, both sisters instantly perk up with glowing excitement. He even offers to give them spare keys so they can enter the villa anytime, even when he isn't home. In his mind, he reasons that having them drop by will keep the empty mansion from feeling haunted without invading his personal privacy. Raising her hand in delight, Karen cheers that she'll drop by to visit without holding back. Her older sister smiles radiantly, promising that she will definitely be visiting him as well. Shikoku welcomes them, and an overly eager Karen immediately demands that they head straight to the villa to set everything up right away. Arriving at the property, the group is greeted by the magnificent exterior of the luxurious villa mansion. Gesturing to the opulent decor inside, the older sister humbly presents the mansion as a simple token of her family's gratitude. Looking around at the pristine furniture and high-end tableware, Shikoku mentally questions if it's really okay for him to accept such a grand palace. Karen teases him for suddenly acting so humble, noting how casually he usually treats her, which Shikoku insists is a totally separate matter. Stepping into the massive private library and living room area, Shikoku can't help but marvel at the sheer scale of the place. Remembering his manners, Shikoku apologizes and cordially invites the sisters to take a seat, telling them to treat the mansion as their own home. As Shikoku sits down on the soft couch, Karen wonders if he invited her to sit down out of gentle consideration for her newly healed legs. Refusing to be treated like an invalid, Karen stubbornly crosses her arms and declares that she isn't tired at all. Shikoku's sweat drops and tells her children shouldn't overexert themselves, instantly triggering an angry outburst from Karen. Shikoku placates her with a calm nod, reminding her that he didn't heal her legs just for her to recklessly strain herself. In reality, Shikoku is terrified that if rumors spread about him overworking the Duke's favorite daughter, his life would be over. Watching his frantic attempt to keep Karen safe, the older sister giggles softly at how caring he truly is. Trying to tease her back, Shikoku jokingly offers his rock-hard armor as a seat if she hates the soft sofa so much. He smugly congratulates himself, confident that anyone in their right mind would choose the comfy couch over metal armor. But to his absolute horror, Karen calmly accepts the offer and agrees to sit directly on him instead. Shikoku freezes in utter shock, realizing his sarcastic joke just backfired in the worst possible way. Without hesitation, Karen plops herself right onto his armored lap, leaving Shikoku shaking in a cold sweat. Panic-stricken, Shikoku stammers out, asking what on earth she thinks she's doing. Karen smugly reminds him it was his idea, complaining that his armor hurts her butt while Shikoku desperately tries to reason with her. Sitting behind Karen's huge red twin-tails, Shikoku realizes he can't even see the older sister, Lady Lifia, anymore. Lady Lifia giggles and teases Karen about getting prime seating, while a flustered Karen defensively denies being happy about it. Lifia slyly winks at her younger sister, driving Karen completely wild with embarrassment. Trying to change the subject, Karen stammers up at him, asking why he won't take off his armor now that he's in his own home. Shikoku quickly uses his go-to excuse, claiming he keeps his full gear on just in case unexpected danger strikes. In truth, he's dying to take off the hot suit, but showing his face after their awkward prior encounter at the clock tower would be way too embarrassing. To dodge the subject, Shikoku gently places his large armored hand on top of Karen's head for head pat. Karen turns red as a beet and instantly explodes, yelling at him to stop patting her head like a little kid. She starts flailing her arms in a full-blown tantrum on his lap, ordering him to move to the sofa before she forces him. Lifia's sweat drops as the two continue bickering back and forth like a chaotic pair of siblings. Trying to reset the mood, Shikoku notes that the Duke was surprisingly bold to let two young ladies tour a stranger's house alone, prompting Lifia to ask what he means. He explains that normally a male guard would escort them, since the Duke knows nothing of Shikoku's true identity and dangerous situations could easily arise. Lifia chuckles gently and reassures him that her father never acts carelessly, explaining that the Duke simply deems Shikoku worthy of absolute trust. Absent-mindedly head-patting Karen again, Shikoku muses that it's surprising since he and the Duke barely spoke. He realizes the Duke's keen eye for character must stem from decades of evaluating countless nobles and allies. Karen softens up and adds that after he used a priceless elixir to heal her legs, there was no way her family wouldn't trust him completely. Capitalizing on the warm mood, Lifia warmly invites him to join their family for dinner, but Shikoku instantly declines. Catching her breath at his lightning-fast refusal, Lifia's sweat drops and comments on how insanely busy his schedule must be. When Karen begs him to at least visit their manor whenever he leaves or returns to the city, Shikoku's blunt, "no thanks," sends her right back into a rage. In truth, Shikoku is deathly terrified of meeting the Duke again, feeling completely out of his depth around high-level authority figures. Outwardly putting on a mysterious front, Shikoku sullenly mutters that he has various troublesome matters to attend to, leaving both sisters in awe. Karen pouts quietly, unable to hide her disappointment that he won't be staying in the city for very long. Lifia gives her a sympathetic smile, gently telling her younger sister that they have to respect his decision. Karen begs him to at least stay in the city as long as possible, to which Shikoku happily agrees, mentioning he wants to do some sightseeing. In his mind, Shikoku remembers that two influential people are currently searching for him across the city. As he ponders their status, he notices Karen suddenly glaring over her shoulder at her older sister. He catches Lifia discreetly making hand signals to Karen, urging her to do something bold. Karen furiously shakes her head back and forth, adamantly refusing whatever her sister is signaling. Shikoku asks what those weird hand signals were about, causing Lifia to jump in panic and claim it was nothing. Karen instantly exposes her sister, revealing Lifia told her to lift his helmet, making Lifia scream her name in total embarrassment. Realizing how close he came to having his helm removed, Shikoku sweats nervously beneath his armor. Shikoku realizes Lifia is far more bold and forceful than she appears, while Lifia vows to punish Karen later for snitching. Karen retorts that it's her sister's own fault, stubbornly refusing Lifia's demand to get off Shikoku's lap. But out of nowhere, Lifia reaches out and firmly places her hand directly on top of Shikoku's gauntlet. Staring at her sister's bold move, Karen smugly accuses Lifia of simply being jealous that she gets to sit on his lap. Lifia flusteredly pulls her hand back and denies being jealous, while Shikoku tries to convince himself he misread the situation. Shikoku shakes his head, thinking a high-class noble lady like Lifia shouldn't be engaging in such physical flirtation. A sudden sharp realization hits both sisters at the exact same moment. Karen gets offended on her sister's behalf, angrily asking why he keeps rejecting Lifia's advances. Shikoku stammers that a beautiful, high-status noble like Lifia surely already has suitors, so intimacy with him would cause scandals. Lifia clutches her dress tightly, admitting she receives countless marriage proposals from wealthy lords. With a sweet, clear smile, she directly clarifies that she is completely single and unattached. Shikoku admits that's surprising, while Karen reveals that it's actually the suitors who always end up running away. Karen explains that suitors fall for her sister, make fools of themselves, and flee in shame, which Shikoku silently admits he can understand. Karen adds that her sister is actually quite sweet and clingy at heart, but people get so intimidated by her beauty that they avoid her. Lifia covers her face in sheer embarrassment, while Shikoku notes that Karen sitting on his lap is in no position to judge anyone. Leaning in close, Karen whispers to Shikoku, telling to pat the empty seat beside him on the sofa. Though confused as to how that could possibly help, Shikoku decides to follow Karen's mysterious instructions. Reaching over Karen, Shikoku gently pats the empty spot on the sofa next to him. The moment he pats the cushion, Lifia immediately rises from her seat and glides over. Lifia happily sits right beside him while a smug Karen declares victory, leaving Shikoku even more baffled than before. Taking her seat next to him, Lifia steals a sweet, gentle glance at his armored profile. Suddenly, Lifia places her hand directly over his gauntlet, sending a jolt of panic straight through Shikoku. With both sisters clinging to him on the couch, Shikoku panics, while Karen marvels that she's never seen her sister act this bold before. As the sun begins to set, their visit comes to an end as the carriage arrives in the courtyard to escort the sisters home. Lifia smiles radiantly, expressing her heartfelt gratitude for spending such wonderful, precious time together. She explains that crafting their official ducal crest for his new villa will take about 3 days due to its intricate design. She promises they will return in person in 3 days to deliver the crest and help manage the villa's staff, which he accepts. Both sisters lower themselves into a flawless, graceful noble curtsy to bid their farewell. Boarding the carriage, Karen waves happily out the window, telling him to stay healthy until their next meeting. Shikoku waves back, telling her to return home safely and put her worried parents at ease, bringing a peaceful end to their unforgettable day. Sitting inside the plush carriage, the sisters bid their final farewell as Karen excitedly tells her driver to set off. The carriage door clicks shut, sealing the two sisters inside for their journey home. Watching the wheels roll away down the estate driveway, Shikoku casually waves them off with a cheerful goodbye. Once the carriage vanishes into the distance, Shikoku exhales a long, heavy breath of relief. Finally alone, he pulls off his heavy steel helmet, stretching his neck with a satisfied groan of pure comfort. Meanwhile, as the carriage rattles along the cobblestone road leading away from the villa, Lifia leans back in her seat, musing about how unbelievably fast time flew during their visit. Karen stares out the carriage window, pouting that she honestly wished they could have stayed much longer with him. Lifia chuckles in agreement, teasingly reminding Karen how nice it felt to be called beautiful and showered with praise. Blushing softly, Lifia adds how heartwarming it was to hear Shikoku address Karen so fondly by her name. Karen blushes bright red and twirls her fingers together, trying her best to act indifferent. Lifia marvels at how such a legendary hero remains so humble, while Karen notes that only someone with that level of character could belong to Verthal. Karen then turns her gaze onto her sister, suspecting Lifia only wanted to stay longer to catch a glimpse of Shikoku's true face. Lifia reflects on how Shikoku is the brave savior who risked everything to give Karen her life back, and she remains convinced that the mysterious stranger she encountered at the clock tower is the exact same man. She inwardly admits to herself that she genuinely longs to see Shikoku's real face beneath the helm. Seeing her sister's sullen expression, Karen cheerfully offers to draw a portrait of Shikoku's face for her when they get home. Lifia laughs nervously, politely declining as she recalls Karen's hilariously childish stick figure artwork. As Karen angrily argues about her artistic skills, Lifia suddenly catches a glimpse of something outside the carriage window. Gazing back toward the villa, she spots Shikoku standing on the distant balcony. Having removed his helm to enjoy the fresh breeze, Shikoku stands revealed in the warm sunlight. Lifia's eyes widen in utter disbelief as she catches a crystal-clear view of his handsome face. Unaware of what's happening outside, Karen calls out to her frozen sister. Seeing Lifia completely immobilized, Karen blinks in total confusion. There is no mistaking it. His face, his hair, and the distinct scar near his eye match the man from the clock tower perfectly. A slow, breathtaking smile spreads across Lifia's face as her suspicion is finally confirmed. She chuckles softly to herself, playfully muttering that Shikoku kept teasing her right up until the very end. Putting two and two together, Karen gasps in shock, asking if Shikoku really is the man from the clock tower. Resting her chin on her hand, Lifia proudly confirms that there is zero doubt in her mind. Lifia suddenly wonders if their meeting at the clock tower was actually a calculated move, though Karen points out no one knew Lifia frequented that spot. In Lifia's grand romantic delusion, she convinces herself that Shikoku did research on her preferences and planned the encounter in advance. She speculates that Shikoku positioned himself at the clock tower specifically anticipating Karen would come get her, just to monitor Karen's recovery from afar. Hearing her sister's theory, Karen's eyes widen, convinced that Shikoku was watching over her like a guardian angel. Swooning over his imagined thoughtfulness, Lifia declares that he is truly the most selfless man in existence. She imagines Shikoku suffering harsh reprimands from his secret superiors at Verthal for misusing a divine elixir to save a girl. She remembers his gentle words telling Karen to live happily without feeling guilty about the elixir he sacrificed. She realizes he purposely framed his sacrifice to ease Karen's burden and prevent her from feeling crushed by debt. She concludes that his presence at the clock tower was actually a secret security sweep to eradicate any lingering kidnappers targeting her sister. Overwhelmed by his sheer devotion, Lifia wonders how much secret effort he poured into protecting them, while the MC simply decides it's time for a shower. With her heart fluttering uncontrollably, Lifia falls head over heels for the humble, silent hero who protects them from the shadows. Lifia's mind fills romantic images of Shikoku working silently in the shadows, asking for nothing in return. Holding her chin, Lifia blushes softly as she admits to herself what a truly amazing man he is. Looking over at Karen, Lifia internally wishes 3 days would pass immediately so she can meet him again at the villa. Seeing her sister swoon, Karen bluntly points out that Lifia has the exact face of a girl hopelessly in love. As sunset light filters through the carriage window, Lifia continues her sweet internal monologue. Feeling her heart swell, she silently resolves that to get even closer to Shikoku in the days ahead. Karen squints suspiciously at her blushing sister, knowing full well what's going through her head. Lifia wonders to herself how her strict father would react if he knew how deeply enamored she's become. Meanwhile, Karen reflects that to their father, Shikoku is a figure of terrifying power no noble house could ever challenge. Lifia can't help but smile, imagining the sheer chaos if her father discovered her crush on their legendary benefactor. Back at the main estate, Duke Dagote suddenly sneezes out of nowhere, leaving his wife wondering if he caught a cold. Meanwhile, at the local inn where Shikoku had been staying, the innkeeper feels a bit nostalgic and sad to lose his favorite guest. Wiping a cup behind the counter, the innkeeper mentions he had a hunch Shikoku found permanent lodging when he didn't return last night. Sitting at the bar unmasked, Shikoku happily munches on his meal, promising to keep coming back for the delicious food. Surprised, the innkeeper asks if he truly enjoys the pub's food that much, and Shikoku enthusiastically confirms it's insanely good. Flattered by the high praise, the innkeeper grins brightly and reassures Shikoku that he's welcome anytime. The friendly innkeeper then asks where he's moving to, offering to use his local connections if Shikoku needs help settling in. Shikoku casually takes a bite and mentions that he acquired a house, so he'll be staying there from now on. The innkeeper stops in his tracks, blinking in shock as he asks Shikoku to repeat what he just said. Shikoku nonchalantly drops that he was a bit worried about housing until the local duke simply gifted him a grand villa mansion. The innkeeper's face completely twists in horror as he screams in utter disbelief. Shikoku innocently comments that the duke was just being generous to express thanks, leaving the innkeeper sweating profusely. Trying to explain basic reality to the clueless MC, the innkeeper emphasizes that a duke gifting property is a monumental deal. When Shikoku complains that the house is just too big, the innkeeper facepalms, telling him that's missing the point entirely. The innkeeper explains that land and villas represent absolute political power among nobility, making real estate sacred. He points out that by giving up such valuable land, the duke made a massive political sacrifice just to secure a bond with Shikoku. Hearing the innkeeper's breakdown, a cold sweat breaks out on Shikoku's face as the heavy political reality finally dawns on him. Staring at the young man eating breakfast, the innkeeper frantically wonders what kind of insanely powerful secret monster he's been serving food to. Shikoku sighs and weakly claims he's just a normal guy, which the innkeeper vehemently refuses to believe. To change the topic, Shikoku pulls out a massive, heavy pouch of gold coins and thuds it onto the counter as payment. Hearing the distinct, heavy metallic clink of pure gold, the innkeeper hesitatingly reaches out for the bag. Shikoku genuinely thanks him, explaining that the gold is a reward for hiding him from pursuers when he first arrived in the city. Terrified of taking money from an unknown monster, the innkeeper frantically waves his hands, claiming accepting cash from him is scary. When the innkeeper accuses Shikoku of being the scary one, Shikoku deadpans, asking if calling it scary money makes it easier to accept. The innkeeper's sweat drops, insisting he still doesn't want to touch suspicious money. Shikoku explains that he wants to compensate the innkeeper for putting him in danger when he hid from the duke's guards earlier. He reminds the innkeeper of how he lied straight to the duke's face to cover for Shikoku. Remembering that moment, the innkeeper shivers, admitting he was sweating like crazy from sheer terror back then. Shikoku sighs sympathetically, fully acknowledging how stressful that situation must have been. Softening up, the innkeeper smiles and says he simply wanted to treat his guest well, prompting Shikoku to express how truly glad he is that he chose to stay at this inn. When the tavern keeper jokingly asks if he looks cool, our MC agrees without hesitation, leaving the poor guy completely flustered by the unexpected compliment. Putting his helmet back on, our protagonist sets a surprisingly heavy brown sack of payment right onto the counter. The tavern keeper politely tells him to come back anytime while our MC finishes adjusting his armor. Promising to return, our hero bids farewell while the bartender gives him a friendly wave goodbye. As the door swings shut behind him, the chime rings out, leaving the bartender alone in the tavern. Curious about his pay, the bartender quietly slides the bag down under the counter out of sight. He glances around discreetly to make sure none of the patrons are looking before ducking down to open it. Unmatching the sack, he is instantly blinded by the dazzling glow of countless pure gold coins. Staring into the fortune in sheer disbelief, he realizes the mysterious armored man was dead serious. Slumping to the floor in shock, he wonders how a regular customer could casually hand over such an absurd amount of gold. Meanwhile, the scene shifts toward a grand cathedral representing the Holy Church, one of the world's 3 great powers. Inside the magnificent sanctuary, a rather silly conversation is taking place between 2 sisters. A white-haired girl squishes her sister's face with both hands, ignoring her complaints to cut it out. Having recently regained her sight thanks to a miracle panacea, Nina stares in awe at her big sister's face for the very first time. Her older sister, Marie Quarian's age, teasingly wonders who Nina thinks she actually looks like. Marie dryly asks how many times they've had this exact exchange, to which Nina proudly reveals it is already their 7th time today. Suspecting her younger sister is messing with her on purpose, Marie gets a flat denial from Nina, who plays completely innocent. Marie takes a seat on a nearby wooden bench and crosses her legs, immediately getting scalded by Nina for her terrible manners. Nina lectures her that crossing her legs completely ruins her graceful and holy image as a nun. Clearing her throat awkwardly, Marie claims that slacking off a bit is fine as long as no outsiders see them. She closes her eyes dramatically, claiming that even if someone were to catch her off guard, she is an absolute master at immediately striking a pious, saintly pose to cover it up. Unimpressed by the sudden pious display, Nina gives her a deadpan response that instantly kills the mood. Leaning in, Marie complains that ever since Nina got her vision back, she has been acting way more strict and proper than before. When Marie suggests it's fine to relax sometimes, Nina reminds her that she seems to relax every single day. The 2 sisters keep playfully bickering back and forth over just how lazy Marie really is. Watching her sister talk, Marie reflects on how much happier and livelier Nina has been since gaining her sight. Nina lists off all the recent days her big sister spent slacking around without a single care in the world. Seeing her express herself so freely, Marie feels deeply moved, having never seen Nina like this before. Changing the subject, Nina points out that the mysterious armored man named Sir Shikoku is truly something special. Marie agrees, highlighting that he not only saved Nina, but even handed over the ultimate cure completely for free. What makes it even crazier is that he used 3 whole bottles of that priceless miracle medicine without batting an eye. Both sisters marvel at his incredible generosity and mysterious, overwhelming wealth. Blushing slightly, Nina admits that he had a great face and personality, suggesting he might just be Marie's type. Marie immediately turns the joke back on her, teasing that he sounds like Nina's type too, though Nina claims she's too new to seeing things to have a preference. Resting her head on her hand, Marie smiles knowingly, fully enjoying the chance to tease her innocent sister. She casually warns Nina that given Shikoku's incredible status and connection to Verthal, aiming for him might be pretty difficult. On top of that, a powerful and wealthy knight like him is bound to have a massive horde of rivals chasing after him. She playfully adds that Nina's young age might actually give her an advantage, sending the poor girl into a flustered, blushing state. Caught completely off guard by her sister's teasing, Nina stands there red-faced and utterly speechlessly embarrassed. Marie continues smirking playfully, thoroughly amused after successfully flustering her younger sister. Suddenly, another nun opens the door, asking Lady Marie and Lady Nina to take over their official duties from here. In a split second, Marie instantly flips her attitude, putting on a flawless, angelic smile as she promises they'll handle everything. Turning to walk off, Marie winks at Nina and cheerfully asks if she's ready to get to work. Completely stunned by her sister's terrifyingly fast transition into a perfect saint, Nina can barely stammer out an agreement. Staring at her back in total awe, Nina realizes just how terrifyingly skilled her big sister is at putting on a front. Despite their playful bickering, the two Ansage sisters remain deeply devoted to their sacred duties at the cathedral. Deep down, both of them are eagerly looking forward to the day they get to meet Sir Shikoku once again. 3 days later, Marie is seen completely exhausted, slumping onto a bench in the courtyard while letting out a heavy sigh. Suddenly, a familiar red-haired girl peeks around the wall, calling Marie out for slacking off on the job again. Startled, Marie quickly sits upright and recognizes her friend Lifia, hastily claiming she was merely taking a quick break. Realizing Lifia didn't have a scheduled meeting today, Marie wonders how she managed to enter the courtyard without following formal procedures. Smiling warmly, Lifia apologizes for sneaking in while Marie happily invites her to sit down beside her on the bench. Looking around, Marie asks if Lifia's younger sister Karen didn't come along with her today. Lifia explains that Karen is currently over with Nina, excitedly clinging to her while Nina tries to tidy up the cathedral grounds. Marie realizes that their surprise visit must mean the ducal house has finally sent an official letter of thanks to the mysterious savior. Relief settles over Marie as she complains about how noisy Nina has been every single day, constantly begging to see Shikoku again. Lifia chuckles, revealing that Karen is acting the exact same way, having found someone else besides Lifia to completely spoil her. Lifia explains that Karen has grown so attached to Shikoku that she constantly sits on his armored lap, refusing to move even when her legs hurt. Hearing this, Marie rests her head on her hand, curiously wondering what kind of magical charm Shikoku possesses to draw people in like that. With a gentle blush, Lifia softly confesses that words can't even describe it, calling Shikoku the most wonderful person she has ever met. Surprised by such high praise coming from Lifia, Marie notes how rare it is for her to speak so passionately about anyone. Getting competitive, Marie leans in close with a sly grin, pressing Lifia to reveal what kind of grand reward her family gave him. Marie insists on knowing the details, begging Lifia to give her a reference point. Deep down, Marie needs to know what the ducal house offered so the Ansage family can prepare an equally grand reward without being disrespectful. Lifia agrees to tell her under strict secrecy, threatening to expose Marie's true lazy personality to everyone if she ever spills the secret. Lowering her voice nervously to a quiet whisper, Lifia prepares to spill the private details of the ducal reward. She reveals that the first part of the reward was a private villa gifted directly to him. Along with the villa, they offered a substantial monetary reward and the official crest of the ducal house. Upon hearing the short list, Marie's face goes completely blank in absolute shock and confusion. Marie stammers in disbelief, questioning why that's all he received when he literally saved Karen's life using a legendary elixir. Flustered, Lifia frantically waves her hands, insisting that she feels the exact same way but it simply couldn't be helped. Suspicious, Marie narrows her eyes, refusing to believe there wasn't a way to reward him properly. Lifia clarifies that it wasn't a matter of stinginess, but rather that Shikoku flat out refused to accept any of the lavish rewards they offered him. Shocked to her core, Marie waves her hands, insisting that a person who rejects rewards like that couldn't possibly exist in real life. Meeting her gaze with a serious look, Lifia remains dead quiet, proving that she isn't making any of this up. Lifia blushes softly as she reiterates that this selfless nature is precisely why she called him the best person she has ever met. She adds that even her proud father admitted defeat, openly confessing that he was no match for a man like Shikoku. Marie is floored to hear that even Lifia's father felt inferior, as Lifia explains he's been stressing out trying to figure out how to handle their next meeting. Lifia notes that if they don't prepare with that level of seriousness, they won't even have a leg to stand on, leaving Marie completely stunned by Shikoku's true standing. Lifia adds with a nervous laugh that her father stops smiling completely whenever Shikoku's name is brought up, clearly deeply impacted by him. Marie sweat drops at the thought, realizing that any man capable of intimidating a powerful duke like Lifia's father must be a true monster. Even so, Marie smiles gently, acknowledging that both of their younger sisters were ultimately saved by such an extraordinary person. Blushing softly, Lifia agrees, noting that only someone of his incredible caliber could have accomplished such a miracle in the first place. Marie then turns to Lifia, asking if she thinks Shikoku really belongs to the legendary organization known as Verthal. Sitting in the serene courtyard, Lifia reveals her father gave her strict orders never to do anything that would make an enemy out of him. Realizing Lifia isn't allowed to answer directly, Marie notes that if he really is from Verthal, it poses a unique problem regarding his reward. Marie explains that since Verthal holds immense power and rights, they can practically get whatever they want without needing outside favors. Lifia mentions something strange, noting that Shikoku actually seemed far happier with the cash payment than with their house crest. Marie is taken aback by this revelation, finding it completely illogical for anyone to prefer simple gold over a ducal crest. She reflects that while money can easily be earned through work, receiving the backing of a duke's family is a rare privilege. A ducal crest provides permanent backing and status, making it something that almost anyone in the kingdom would envy. However, Marie realizes that if Shikoku already has the emperor's backing through Verthal, preferring cold hard cash makes sense. Lifia smiles warmly, believing Shikoku was happy with the money simply because it gave him more resources to help people in need. Thinking about his magnificent armor and weapons, Lifia reasons that he likely uses his rewards to fund his selfless acts of rescue. Marie decides they should definitely offer him plenty of gold, while Lifia teases her that Shikoku is going to be her exact type. Flustered and blushing furiously, Marie stammers in embarrassment, complaining that Nina told her the exact same thing earlier. Lifia giggles behind her hand, finding it hilarious how similar both sisters think when it comes to Marie's romantic interest. Annoyed by the teasing, Marie points out that Lifia has no right to talk when she herself is practically radiating a love aura. Marie playfully threatens to tattle to Shikoku that Lifia is secretly in love with him, sending Lifia into an absolute blushing panic. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the courtyard, Nina walks alongside Karen, excited at the prospect of finally meeting her savior in person. Holding her broom tight, Nina remembers how frantic they were when they first tried searching for Shikoku without any luck. Clutching her broom anxiously, Nina worries if Shikoku got into severe trouble with his organization for using that legendary elixir on her. Karen wags her finger, assuring Nina that Shikoku would scold her if he heard her feeling guilty over his actions. Karen recalls how Shikoku told her he would rather see them enjoy their lives to the fullest instead of worrying about him. Hearing his kind words, Nina clasps her hands together in relief, deeply touched by his incredible selflessness. Karen adds that Shikoku mentioned having no regrets even if he got disciplined, leaving Nina wondering if he defied his own superiors. Karen speculates that Shikoku is likely so high-achieving and valuable to Verthal that his superiors wouldn't dare punish him severely. Holding her broom against her chin, Nina ponders for a moment, agreeing that such bold independence sounds exactly like him. Sitting together on a bench, Karen notes that Shikoku is the type who never compromises on what he believes is right, no matter what. Nina asks how long he plans to stay in the city, and Karen reveals he turned down a dinner invitation from her family due to his busy schedule. Karen's sweat drops as she recalls how casually Shikoku turned down a grand banquet hosted by her aristocratic family. Nina wonders if he spends his nights helping people, while Karen guesses his dark armor allows him to secretly patrol the city at night. Imagining him as a noble hero lurking in the shadows, Nina blushes starry-eyed at how unbelievably cool he sounds. Seeing her reaction, Karen gets a mischievous grin and decides to share a very useful secret with Nina. Karen leans in and reveals that Shikoku frequently eats commoner food for lunch at a local inn named Eldi. Nina repeats the name of the inn over and over, engraving the valuable piece of information straight into her mind. Suddenly, Nina leaps up from the bench with determination, startling Karen, who asks if she's planning on running off there right now. Blushing profusely, Nina insists she would never go visit him before their family properly prepares his reward first. Ignoring her own denial, Nina immediately dashes off, clutching her broom, leaving Karen sitting on the bench in utter bewilderment. Watching Nina bolt away without another word, Karen sits alone on the bench, wondering if she was just completely abandoned. Meanwhile, our protagonist is happily walking through the town in his dark armor, humming a tune as he heads out to grab lunch. Reaching his favorite tavern, he reaches for the door handle, eager to enjoy a good meal. Inside, Nina is already at the counter asking the shopkeeper what time the armored man usually comes in for lunch. Opening the door, our MC pauses when he hears the shopkeeper stammering in complete panic. Looking inside, he sees an armored guard, none standing beside Nina, aggressively demanding that the tavern keeper disclose private information. Terrified by the intimidating night nun, the shopkeeper cries out that the person usually arrives right around this time. Standing at the doorway, our MC sweat drops, realizing the poor shopkeeper is literally undergoing an interrogation just because of him. Nina keeps pressing the shopkeeper, asking which specific seat the armored man usually sits in. Before the shopkeeper can even process the question, the guard nun steps up again and demands full disclosure. Fearing for his life, the terrified tavern keeper frantically points his finger straight toward the entrance where our MC is standing. Moving on to the menu, Nina asks which specific dish the man usually orders when he eats here. The shopkeeper stammers that he doesn't have a fixed order, prompting Nina to ask what he ate during his last visit. Pointing directly at an item on the paper menu, the shopkeeper confirms yesterday's meal, and Nina immediately orders the exact same dish. As the shopkeeper screams in a high-pitched voice, rushes off to prepare the order, our MC sweat drops at how terrified the guy is. Seeing how intense the situation is, our hero briefly considers backing out and getting lunch somewhere else today. However, knowing how good the shopkeeper has been to him, he feels it would be wrong to just turn his back and walk away. Deciding to step inside, our protagonist hopes that having another customer around will help de-escalate the tension. Looking at the scene, he sighs internally, confirming that the poor tavern keeper is definitely getting harassed. The shopkeeper begs the two women for a moment to breathe as they loom over his counter. Our MC offers a silent prayer for the shopkeeper, hoping his arrival will give the man an ally to lean on. Gathering his courage, our hero prepares to walk forward and step into the awkward situation. But the moment he steps closer, he immediately changes his mind and turns around, deciding it's safer not to get involved. Suddenly, total silence falls over the tavern as both Nina and her guard turn around and stare dead at him. Panic settles in as our protagonist wonders why the entire conversation had to stop at the worst possible moment. Blushing deeply, Nina tells her armored guardian to wait at the counter while she approaches him. Hearing her footsteps drawing near, our MC internally freaks out, wondering why she's coming straight toward him. Sweating profusely under his helmet, he silently begs the shopkeeper to save him, reminding him that he came in to help. Unbothered by his plight, the shopkeeper smiles happily in the background, promising to cook him delicious food in return for taking the heat off. As Nina approaches, our flustered MC frantically raises his hand toward the shopkeeper, loudly declaring that he's just here to place an order. The shopkeeper ignores his plea and runs off in the kitchen, leaving our hero alone with Nina. Turning around, our MC is greeted by Nina standing before him, radiating a glowing, angelic smile with heavily blushed cheeks. Looking up at him tenderly, Nina softly asks if he remembers who she is. Recognizing her voice and face, our MC is stunned to realize it's Nina, relieved to see that she is doing so well. Holding her hands over her heart, Nina enthusiastically expresses how overjoyed she is to see him healthy and well. Shifting his attention, our hero politely addresses the guard, Nun, explaining that he was the one who asked the shopkeeper to keep his visits private and asking her to forgive the man. Understanding the situation, the guard, Nun, bows deeply to the shopkeeper, apologizing for her aggressive behavior. The shopkeeper frantically waves his hands, telling her not to worry about it and thanking them for their kindness. Looking down at Nina, our MC admits he almost didn't recognize her at first because her clothes and appearance look so completely different. Striking a graceful pose in her official white nun robes, Nina blushes softly and sweetly asks him if her new outfit suits her. Complimenting her, our MC notes that her nun outfit will likely suit her even better once she grows up into an adult, delighting Nina. Glancing at her attire, he admits he had no idea she was actually affiliated with the prestigious Holy Church. As Nina smiles gracefully, her armored guardian stands silently behind her, keeping a sharp eye on the conversation. Feeling an intense, piercing gaze, our protagonist's sweat drops when he notices the knight, Nun, glaring heavily at him. Feeling thoroughly intimidated by the guard's silent pressure, our hero nervously struggles to figure out what to say next. Hoping to ease the tension, he quickly changes the subject, asking Nina if her eyesight has been functioning properly. Leaning it unexpectedly close with a beaming smile, Nina excitedly confirms that her vision is completely fine thanks to him. To double-check her vision, our MC holds up 2 fingers in front of her, asking her to identify what she sees. Nina easily identifies his 2 fingers, and when he changes it to an open palm, she correctly answers 5 without any hesitation. Seeing her pass the quick test, our hero lets out a sigh of relief, genuinely glad that her sight has been fully restored. Touched by his concern, Nina softly shares that she is happier than ever now that she can finally see her family's faces after years of blindness. Feeling a bit embarrassed by her dramatic emotional declaration, our MC flusteredly begs her not to say such heavy things. Regaining his composure, he reminds her to raise her head and enjoy her new life, as otherwise using that legendary elixir would have been a waste. Inspired by his kind words, Nina brightens up completely, promising to do her absolute best to live a happy life. Right on cue, the tavern keeper arrives at their table, serving 2 massive, mouth-watering plates of steak and eggs. Clasped in excitement, Nina marvels at the feast before her, amazed by the sheer size of the meal. Noticing the huge portion, our hero asks if she accidentally ordered the large serving, which Nina embarrassedly admits to. He chuckles, pointing out that a large serving is usually meant for full-grown adults, but Nina blushes and admits she just wanted to eat the exact same meal as him. She softly admits that trying his favorite food was the main reason she came all the way to this tavern today. Finding her reasoning adorable, our MC chuckles warmly, understanding that people sometimes get curious about what others eat. He reassures her that if she can't finish it, he and the guard will happily eat the leftovers, knowing even adults get full off that portion. Grateful for his thoughtfulness, both Nina and her guardian blush softly, thanking him for being so considerate. Gesturing to the steaming plates, our hero encourages them to dig in right away without waiting for his order to arrive. He reminds them that their timeout is likely limited, adding that it would be a shame to let such delicious, freshly cooked food go cold. Clasping their hands together in prayer, Nina and her knight give thanks before diving into their respective meals. Taking their first bites simultaneously, both of them savor the rich flavor of the tavern's cooking. Blushing in delight, Nina and her guard immediately agree that the tavern's food is unbelievably delicious. Our MC smiles proudly under his helmet, boasting like a true regular about how great the tavern's food always is. Suddenly, the bartender slams a fresh mug of all onto the counter, angrily asking why the MC is acting like he cooked the food himself. Our MC complains about the rough treatment, but the flustered shopkeeper snaps back that he was just terrified of the intimidating knight nun earlier. After our MC explains that he already cleared up the misunderstanding, Nina smiles warmly, noting how close the two of them seem. While our MC claims they are good friends, the bartender grumbles that his secretiveness makes things difficult, which Nina completely agrees with. Realizing he just casually complained about a high-ranking customer in front of church nobles, the bartender pales in utter panic. Amused, our hero notes that the bartender was casually speaking to them in his normal informal tone without even realizing it. Showing mercy, our MC asks the guard, Nun, to forgive the shopkeeper's rudeness, and the guard agrees as long as Nina isn't offended. Nina cutely chimes in that she isn't offended at all, adding that she would actually prefer if the bartender spoke as casually as Shikoku does. Overwhelmed by the noble's unexpected request, the poor shopkeeper begs them to spare him from having to act so familiar. Our MC teases him for acting so unusually formal, prompting the bartender to angrily retort that being polite to nobility is normal for commoners. Interrupting their playful bickering, Nina speaks up, politely apologizing for interrupting the mood. Both our hero and the shopkeeper pause, turning to look at Nina as she reveals she has a serious question to ask them. Clutching her pendant, Nina explains that her permitted time outside the cathedral is strictly limited. Blushing softly, she asks if they can discuss a proper date and time to meet so her family can formally thank him. She reiterates her request while our MC stares at her in stunned silence beneath his helmet. Unmasked under his helmet, our hero's eyes widen in sheer confusion as he tries to process what she just proposed. As the shopkeeper tries to slip away, our MC panics, wondering if he's expected to visit the Holy Church's Grand Cathedral in person. Nina quickly shakes her head, clarifying that her family intends to visit his private estate instead. Realizing they already know his private address, our MC sweat drops, while Nina nervously apologizes if they offended him by digging into his background. Internally sweating, our protagonist wonders how on earth they tracked down his brand new villa so quickly. Raising his hand, our hero assures her it's fine, suggesting that if they must visit, it should be on a weekend since he's busy during the week. Understanding his busy schedule, Nina suggests meeting next Sunday around noon. Agreeing to the time, our MC asks who will be attending, and Nina lists her father, mother, sister Marie, herself, and a few guards. Hearing the massive lineup of high-ranking church figures, our MC goes completely silent in sheer horror. Sweat dropping internally, our hero realizes Nina's family holds an absurd amount of power and influence in the kingdom. Trying to keep things manageable, our MC asks if he has any say in who gets to visit his estate. He directly requests that Nina's parents stay home, catching Nina completely off guard. Sitting calmly, he explains that he wants to avoid drawn-out formal greetings and prefers not to attract public attention. Hearing this, the shopkeeper peeks out from the kitchen, yelling at our hero for claiming he wants to avoid attention while wearing giant dark armor. Our MC gives the shopkeeper an annoyed look, silently telling the old man to stay out of it. Continuing his excuse, our hero argues that Nina's powerful parents should prioritize their important church duties instead of traveling. He assures Nina she can still express her gratitude without her parents, secretly terrified of meeting high-ranking nobles. To push his point further, he teasfully asks if she feels incapable of relying on just her older sister. Completely flustered, Nina nervously stammers that she would never imply such a thing about Marie. With the matter settled, our MC turns to the night guard, trusting she will relay his preferences to her superiors. The guard none approves of his practical approach, thanking him for being so straightforward. Relieved that he successfully avoided an official meeting with powerful church leaders, our MC smiles triumphantly beneath his helmet. Having finished their discussion, Nina quietly enjoys a bite of her steak while her guard stands watch. Setting her utensils down on an empty plate, Nina addresses Lord Shikoku as she prepares to leave. Both Nina and her knight bow gracefully, thanking him for the meal and stating they look forward to seeing him next Sunday. Our hero waves them off casually, bidding them farewell as they head toward the door. Hearing the sound of their footsteps fading away, the two women officially exit the tavern. Once the coast is clear, our MC collapses onto the counter, letting out a massive sigh of sheer exhaustion. Bringing over a fresh plate of hot steak, the shopkeeper chuckles, asking why the MC looks so drained when he's the one who handled everything calmly. Our hero groans that dealing with such high-status figures is exhausting, while the shopkeeper mutters that talking to nobles like equals is what's truly crazy. Slumping forward, our protagonist suggests they just agree that both of them had an exhausting afternoon. The bartender remarks that he always knew the MC wasn't ordinary, but never imagined he had the standing to rival the Holy Church, leaving our MC internally rolling his eyes. Shifting the conversation, the bartender realized that despite knowing the MC's crazy background, our hero is still treating him like a normal friend. Our hero confirms it's much easier for both of them if they keep talking casually without any aristocratic fluff. Relieved, the bartender lightheartedly begs the MC not to sue him for disrespect later, to which our hero chuckles, unmasking to dig into his food. Munching on his steak, our MC notes how intimidating the guard nun was, and the bartender agrees that church elites are terrifyingly competent. Our protagonist agrees, then gives the shopkeeper permission to share his general information if anyone asks, confident it won't cause any further trouble. Once the women leave, the bartender yells at our hero for not giving him permission sooner, though he admits he forgives him since the guard showed mercy. The bartender explains that the guard nun wasn't trying to flex her authority, but was fiercely protecting Nina's limited free time outside the cathedral. He notes that the guard's aggressive interrogation was simply her intense way of demonstrating her absolute loyalty to Nina. Chewing on his steak, our MC sighs, realizing that even highly elite guards have their own struggles when caught in the middle of duties. The bartender remarks that serving powerful people is stressful everywhere, though he feels our MC understands that burden better than anyone. Wiping a plate, the bartender points out how our hero smoothly played the gentleman earlier, making excuses about public perception for the guard's sake. Blushing, our hero laughs it off, claiming he was just making up plausible excuses on the spot since he knows nothing about noble etiquette. However, the bartender thoughtfully points out that not needing to care about high society etiquette usually implies immense power. Eyes widening in sudden panic, the bartender gasps, wondering if our MC is secretly higher ranked than the Holy Church leadership itself. Flustered, our MC frantically denies it, but the bartender walks off annoyed, leaving our hero groaning as the misunderstanding gets even worse. Meanwhile, a luxurious carriage travels down the cobblestone road as Nina expresses how happy she was to share a meal with Sir Shikoku. Inside the carriage, Nina asks her guard, Nun, for a personal impression of Shikoku, to which the knight praises his overwhelming martial strength. Smiling gently, Nina clarifies that she was asking about his inner character and personality rather than his combat skills. The guard, Nun, bows her head in apology, admitting she couldn't observe his personality because she was under constant surveillance the entire time. Hearing the word surveillance, Nina's eyes widen in complete shock and confusion. The guard nun explains that since guards tend to drop their vigilance during meals, Shikoku was likely testing her alertness the whole time. Reminding Nina of her past kidnapping incident, the guard admits her detail previously committed a grave error in protecting her. She confesses that failing to sense Shikoku's presence was a total failure, though Nina innocently wonders if Shikoku just naturally has a faint presence. The guard nun dismisses the idea, stating that the gap in their combat abilities is simply absolute in night and day. She further analyzes that their meeting at the tavern was too perfectly timed to be a coincidence, suspecting Shikoku planned everything. She concludes that Shikoku either possesses an extraordinary intelligence network or holds superhuman insight into people's movements. The guard then questions his true motive for turning down a meeting with Nina's parents, asking if Nina noticed anything strange. Seeing Nina nod quietly, the guard realizes her young lady picked up on the subtle anomaly as well. She reasons that no sensible person would throw away an opportunity to connect with the head of the Holy Church after doing them such a huge favor. Pointing out the flaw in his excuse, the guard notes that having Marie or Nina visit his villa would still attract massive public attention anyway. Nina looks down thoughtfully, realizing that his fear of drawing attention was merely a cover story for a deeper motive. The guard adds that while people usually fear those in power, Shikoku interacted with Nina far too naturally for that to be his real reason. Considering rumors that he belongs to Verthal, the guard assumes he is a master strategist accustomed to navigating political mind games. Silence fills the carriage as both women deeply ponder the true intention behind his odd request. Anxiously, Nina wonders if Shikoku was subtly warning them that danger might strike the Grand Cathedral. Something only her parents could handle. The guard nun agrees, believing Shikoku wouldn't make such an unusual request without a dire reason, urging that they consult Nina's parents immediately. Placing her hand over her heart, the guard nun asks Nina for permission to have the carriage driver pick up the pace. Understanding the urgency of the situation, Nina hastily agrees, instructing her guard to hurry. Leaning out the window, the guard nun shouts orders to the driver to push the horses to maximum speed. The driver nods sharply, snapping the reins to speed up their journey back. The carriage races down the sunlit path, rushing toward the Grand Cathedral with urgent news. Later at the magnificent villa, the scene shifts to the luxurious living room bathed in warm sunlight. Sitting on the plush couch alongside Nina, Marie reflects on how Shikoku specifically requested for her to visit instead of her parents. Smirking with her hand to her cheek, Marie teasingly boasts that Sir Shikoku clearly has incredible taste in women. Spotting her trembling legs, Nina smiles gently, teasing her big sister by pointing out that both her voice and legs are shaking uncontrollably from nervousness. Back in the villa, Marie continues flustering, complaining that she never expected Shikoku's condition for the reward to be leaving their parents behind. Marie ponders whether his odd request stems from his ties to Verthal, but Nina reassures her that Shikoku is truly a wonderful person. Still hesitant, Marie wonders if the armored savior is really as generous and kind as the rumors suggest. Nina smiles warmly at her older sister, assuring Marie that Shikoku is just as kind and generous as she is. Feeling reassured, Marie suggests that maybe she should just meet him as her normal self, and Nina enthusiastically agrees. Suddenly, Marie's face turns dark and deadpan, asking Nina if she's trying to get her killed by dropping her holy facade. Marie reasons that acting polite leaves a much better impression on people than just being her usual casual self. Nina beams with a gentle smile, telling Marie that she prefers her big sister when she's just being genuine and true to herself. Touched by her words, Marie smirks gracefully on the sofa, promising to take Nina's advice to heart. Shifting back to a serious tone, Marie stands up and admits that Shikoku truly is an unbelievable individual. She points out how incredible it is that he detected the moves of a hostile new religious group before anyone else, likely investigating them in secret. Nina ponders how he manages to gather such top-secret intelligence, concluding it's best not to pry into his confidential methods. Marie warns that prying into his secrets might cause him to view them as enemies, or worse, abandon them completely. Looking grim, Marie stresses that losing his favor would mean they could no longer associate with him. She reminds Nina that beneath his kind demeanor, Shikoku is undeniably an absolute monster in terms of power. Turning toward the window with a nervous chuckle, Marie jokingly suggests there's a chance he might even be listening to their conversation right now. She laughs it off, claiming that with all the guards stationed outside, such a stealthy eavesdropping attempt would be totally impossible. Suddenly, loud footsteps creak directly across the ceiling, freezing both sisters in sheer, horror-stricken panic. Staring up at the ceiling in terror, Nina stammers out her sister's name as the mysterious footsteps continue above them. Waving her hands in frantic denial, Marie desperately claims it must just be a stray animal on the roof like last time. Both sisters try to rationalize the terrifying timing, desperately praying that Shikoku is just providing secret security for them. They try to convince themselves of his kindness, knowing the entrance guards would never let an actual intruder break into the estate. Time passes, and the day of their scheduled meeting finally arrives, finding our hero casually chatting at his favorite tavern. Our MC reflects on his plan for the day, glad he successfully prevented Nina's powerful parents from coming along. Unmasked and confident, our hero thinks about how thoroughly he simulated every single detail for the upcoming meeting. His only minor concern is meeting Nina's older sister Marie for the very first time. However, if the conversation gets awkward, he plans to simply shift all the social pressure onto Nina. Smirking under his helmet, our MC proudly decides that his backup strategy is absolute perfection. Resting his head on his hand, he tells the bartender that he visited today simply to talk casually with someone before his meeting. He shares his current dilemma, explaining that Duke Dugo provided him with a maid to help manage his new estate. However, our hero complains that the new maid keeps her distance and acts scared of him, which the bartender finds rather pitiful for the maid. Our MC sweat drops as the bartender takes the maid's side, feeling a sudden crack in their friendship. Groaning in defeat, our hero sighs, suspecting he lost the bartender's sympathy ever since he got cornered by the guard earlier. Looking down at the counter, our MC notices something unusual as 2 full mugs of valor set down before him. Glancing around, he notes that the tavern has gotten significantly more crowded and seems to have hired extra staff. The shopkeeper beams with pride, revealing that all the new business is entirely thanks to our protagonist. He explains that after Nina visited, rumors spread quickly, driving crowds of customers to come eat the exact same meal as her. Pondering Nina's popularity, our MC agrees that she will grow up to be stunning, before shifting topics to offer the bartender important news. With a serious tone, our MC asks if the bartender has heard about a new religious group rising up to attack the Holy Church. He warns that this secret faction has been preparing for a long time, and their upcoming scheme is on a massive scale. The shopkeeper asks if he heard that from a customer, and our hero confirms that people are spreading malicious rumors about the Holy Church leadership. Our MC explains that this smear campaign is clearly an attempt to cause an internal rift and weaken the influential Ansage family's authority. Unmasked, our protagonist sighs, reflecting on how exhausting and complicated life is for those holding high positions of power. The shopkeeper laughs, teasing our MC by asking how he would react if he claimed not to know anything about the situation. Shrugging playfully, the bartender says he'd just play along, making our MC sweat drop at his laid-back response. Switching to a more serious tone, our hero expresses confidence that the Holy Church is strong enough to handle the threat. Holding his mug, he notes that an institution as powerful as the Holy Church won't lose its dignity over simple rumors so easily. The shopkeeper agrees but remains concerned, pointing out how rapidly the hostile new movement is gaining momentum across the city. Reassuring his friend, our MC reiterates that the church has more than enough power and fame to weather the storm. Leaning in with a suspicious glare, the bartender asks if our hero has secretly taken action already, but our MC plays completely dumb. Unconvinced, the bartender stares dead into our hero's eyes in complete silence. Feeling the intense pressure, our unmasked MC nervously asks what is with that suspicious glare. The bartender flatly declares that he doesn't buy the MC's innocence, prompting our hero to admit he did gather a bit of solid info. Our protagonist mentions that he plans to check in with Nina directly regarding the church's situation during their upcoming meeting. The bartender agrees that consulting Nina is a great idea, while our hero humbly claims he isn't nearly as trusted by her as people think. Trying to pay his bill, our MC offers 10,000 legio for the food and info, but the shopkeeper looks stunned, refusing to charge him for common knowledge. Waving his hand generously, the bartender declares that since our hero brought Nina to his tavern, his meals are on the house for a while. Surprised by the sudden hospitality, our MC double checks if it's really okay, and the shopkeeper warmly invites him to come back anytime. Delighted by the free meal, our hero beams with joy, feeling immensely grateful. Waving goodbye as he leaves the tavern, our MC reflects that doing good deeds really does eventually come back to reward you. Walking outside in his full dark armor, our protagonist rubs his stomach, thoroughly satisfied after a great lunch. Later at his new estate, the maid asks our hero if wearing his full suit of heavy dark armor is truly necessary for meeting Nina and Marie. Adjusting his gauntlets, our MC casually argues that he wears armor just in case something unexpected breaks out. The maid bluntly questions if he wouldn't actually be much stronger fighting bare-handed, revealing she knows far more about his absurd power than expected. As she stands quietly, our hero admits to himself that this new maid gifted by Duke de Goat has recently become a major source of anxiety for him. Shocked by her comment, our MC stammers under his helmet, demanding to know where she could have possibly heard such detailed information about his strength. Bowing politely, the maid reveals she heard it directly from Duke de Goat himself, assuring him that the information is kept strictly confidential. Internally sweating, our hero thanks goodness that he was wearing his full helmet so she couldn't see his flustered facial expression. Clearing his throat, our MC asks her where they should host Nina and Marie, but internally panics when she leaves the decision entirely up to him. To ease his burden, the maid suggests using either the study or the drawing room, assuring him both locations are perfectly suitable. Our MC immediately agrees on the study, and the maid gracefully bows, offering to lead the way. Unmasked in his thoughts, our hero sighs in envy over how extraordinarily calm and dignified his new maid acts compared to him. The maid then inquires how they should handle the visiting guards and escorts who will be accompanying the noble sisters. Resting his chin on his hand, our hero suggests having the guards wait elsewhere so they don't have to conduct their meeting under constant surveillance. He generously suggests letting the visiting guards roam freely around the mansion so they don't get bored waiting outside. Hearing his bizarrely trusting offer, the maid turns around in sheer disbelief, asking if he is genuinely certain about letting foreign guards roam freely. Noticing her shock, our MC asks if there's a problem, and the maid quickly regains her composure, stating she will follow his desires without issue. Internally sweating, our hero notices her brief lapse in composure, hoping his casual decision didn't cause unnecessary concern. Hoping to offer a welcoming atmosphere, our MC suggests serving the delicious snacks that Karen's family gave him when they handed over their crest seals. Surprised by his unexpected generosity, the maid turns back toward him in sheer astonishment at his casual mention of high-value noble gifts. Startled by his sudden question, the maid nervously stammers out an apology while trying to figure out how to respond appropriately. Hesitantly, she admits that in her opinion, whatever he is proposing sounds like it would turn out completely fine. Satisfied with her answer, our MC decides to move forward with it before casually asking how much a box of those snacks actually cost, since he wants to buy more, only for her to estimate it at around 50,000 legel. Hearing that absurd price almost gives him a heart attack, completely stunned that simple snacks could cost that much money. Trying to gauge the value of things here, he asks about the jeweled ring he received as an extra gift, only to be hit with an even bigger shock when she estimates it at 5 to 10 million legil and asks if he's dissatisfied. Panicking inside, he quickly assures her he isn't complaining at all, though internally sweats over how casually these nobles throw around extreme wealth. As they stand together outside the door, our MC tells her there's no need to worry about him so much, but she politely reminds him that this is just standard etiquette for nobles showing respect. Changing the subject, our MC turns to her and asks if there's anything she wants for herself, catching the maid completely off guard. Scratching his helmet awkwardly, he explains that constantly receiving gifts without giving anything back feels uncomfortable, so he wants to return the favor. The maid quickly declines, insisting that she is just an employee who is already well compensated by Lord Dugout. Refusing to take no for an answer, our MC leans in closer and urges her to stop being so formal and just tell him what she likes. Feeling completely flustered by his persistence, the maid struggles to think of an answer under his intense gaze. Shyly, she admits that she has a bit of a sweet tooth, prompting our MC to promise he'll buy a bunch of sweets for her next time. With that settled, our hero instructs her to proceed as planned once the guests arrive while he heads off to his study, and she respectfully bows in response. As he walks away, the maid watches him leave while making a mental note that she needs to report all of this to Lord Dugout. Thinking back on how casually he spoke about sharing, she internally marvels at his odd demeanor, knowing such terms are usually considered rude towards social superiors. Meanwhile, inside the mansion's lavish hallway, the expected guests are formally welcomed upon their arrival. It turns out to be Lady Marie and Lady Nina, escorted by their holy knights as they enter the estate. The maid opens the heavy double doors, guiding the distinguished guests into the reception room. Walking gracefully past the bowing maid, the ladies make their way inside to meet the master of the house. Upon entering, Lady Marie and Lady Nina offer a respectful prayer and greeting to Lord Shikoku standing before them. Once everyone is inside, the doors are firmly closed behind them to ensure privacy for the meeting. Meanwhile, back out in the hallway, the guard vice captain escorting Nina approaches the maid, surprised to see her still working there. The maid explains that she expected to lose her position when the villa changed hands, but the new master was kind enough to consider her situation. Surprised by this, the vice captain questions if Lord Shikoku is truly kind, noting he easily could have replaced her with someone more capable. As they walk down the corridor, the vice captain suggests he might have recognized her competence, but the maid points out they've never met before, so he had no reason to judge her abilities. The vice captain chuckles, reminding her that talking about a mysterious figure whose intentions are always hard to read. Realizing there is no clear answer, the maid can only remain silent as she ponders the situation. Sighing softly, the maid agrees that continuing this line of conversation will only lead them in circles. After all, Lord Shikoku is known for keeping his true nature completely hidden, and no one is permitted to pry into his personal affairs. The vice captain asks if serving such a secretive man is difficult, to which the maid admits her nerves are constantly on edge, since even Lord Dugout defers to him. Bringing up another strange rumor, the vice captain asks if it's true that no guards were stationed at the mansion, and the maid confirms he rejected them all. She recalls how he casually dismissed the idea of guards, claiming having armed men around would just make the environment feel stiff and overly formal. Hearing this, the vice captain interprets it as an open dare to any potential attackers, though the maid agrees he certainly has the power to back up such arrogance. The maid adds that his presence alone makes this mansion the safest place in the world, even if the constant tension is giving her gray hairs. Shifting back to business, the vice captain gets serious and asks to confirm if they really have complete freedom while waiting for the meeting to end. Stopping in her tracks, the maid confirms those were indeed his exact instructions. The vice captain then asks for her personal take, wondering if living with him has given her any insight into what he might really be planning. Cautiously looking around, the maid agrees to share her own speculation, as long as she isn't held responsible for what she says. Taking a breath, she begins to explain what she thinks he truly meant when he told them to move around freely. She clarifies that he simply meant for the guards to rest or take a tour of the mansion during their wait. After all, abandoning their primary duty of protecting their ladies would be completely foolish for any guard. The maid explains that if he assigned a specific waiting area, it might hinder their ability to react quickly and protect Lady Murray and Lady Nina. In other words, Lord Shikoku wanted them to act based on their own assessment of their capabilities in any situation. The vice captain ponders this, wondering if it implies he doesn't fully trust their ability to defend themselves. However, the maid quickly shakes her head, assuring her that lack of trust isn't the issue at all. Instead, she believes Lord Shikoku wants them to accept the harsh reality that they can't always rely on him for help, a mindset vital for keeping Lady Nina safe. Recalling how happily Lady Nina enjoys her sweets, the vice captain realizes the wisdom behind the maid's words. Although it's just her own theory, the maid feels it's the most likely explanation, and the vice captain asks her to pass along their gratitude. Meanwhile, back in the reception room, our MC sits on the couch sweating bullets, wondering why the atmosphere feels so unnervingly tense. Across from him, Lady Maria and Lady Nina sit stiffly, gripping their dresses as they stare at him with intense anxiety. Unable to figure out what he did wrong, our hero internally complains that the two sisters are the ones acting completely weird. Breaking the heavy silence, Lady Murray nervously asks just how much Lord Shikoku has seen through regarding her future conduct. Hearing her cryptic question, our MC is left completely bewildered, wondering what on earth she means by having seen through her. When he asks for clarification about her future conduct, Lady Marie simply nods and confirms it. Wanting her to actually finish her sentence, our MC accidentally lets out a sharp tone, asking her directly what she's trying to say. His sudden blunt response startles Lady Nina, making her gasp in shock at his intimidating tone. Realizing he messed up the mood even further, our hero panics internally, desperately wishing someone would save him from this disaster. Trying to fix his blunder, he quickly clarifies that he hasn't seen through everything and asks if she misunderstood something. He raises his hand to explain he just wanted them to make themselves comfortable so they could discuss the main topic easily. However, seeing her sister still visibly struggling, Nina quietly warns Marie that holding back like this will start affecting her dignity. Watching the mood plummet even further, our protagonist realizes he needs to take control before the situation gets completely out of hand. Channeling his Dark Knight persona, he boldly bluffs, stating that if acting formal affects her dignity, then maybe there's truth to it. The sharp call-out leaves Lady Murray gasping in utter shock. Completely defeated, Marie slumps back on the sofa in awe of how he caught her, while Nina smugly celebrates winning their bet. Seeing her sudden collapse, our MC stands there completely speechless behind his helmet. Suddenly, Marie fixes her posture and completely changes her aura, leaving our hero wondering where the delicate girl from a moment ago went. Shocked by her dramatic transformation, he internally notes that she seems like an entirely different person now. Dropping her formal facade with a sly smile, Marie agrees to take him up on his offer and stop acting so stiff. She playfully asks him not to view her real attitude as disrespectful, revealing to our MC that this bold personality is her true self. When Mary immediately tries to jump into discussing the reward for the main topic, our hero quickly raises his hand to stop her. Mentally exhausted by negotiations, our MC pushes to talk about something else first to delay the tedious reward discussion. Lady Nina looks up in surprise, curious about what other topic he wants to bring up. Bringing up a critical issue, our MC asks about the new religious organization that recently emerged and started opposing the Holy Church. Surprised by his concern, Marie confirms they can discuss it, and when our hero explains he prefers settling this matter first, she gets deeply moved. Seeing her sudden emotional reaction, our MC is left completely clueless once again as to why she's thanking him. Crossing her arms, Marie marvels at how far ahead he can see, while our protagonist just stands there thoroughly confused. Eager to take advantage of his offer, Nina steps forward enthusiastically to explain the details of the situation. Nina explains that thanks to his prior support, they've determined the threat from the new organization can be handled peacefully. She reveals their plan to lure the hostile group out before they gain more power, noting that while they tolerate other faiths, this group maliciously targets the church. Our protagonist internally sweats over how his casual attempt at small talk spiraled into an intense military strategy meeting. Meanwhile, Nina explains their plan to lure the enemy out, revealing they intentionally leaked rumors that the entire Ansage family left the cathedral. She points out that in their family's long history, they've never all been absent, making this an irresistible trap for the hostile cult. Our MC nods thoughtfully, noting that if the false information spreads successfully, the enemy will likely make a move today. Nina gasps softly as an important detail catches her off guard. Taking a sip of tea, our hero asks to confirm that her parents are still at the cathedral with heavy security, which she affirms. Reassured, our MC tells her everything should be fine, but Nina anxiously asks if he truly believes the issue will be resolved successfully. He reassures her that with so much preparation, as long as they stay vigilant, her family will manage to handle whatever happens. Both sisters fall silent, staring at him as if waiting for deeper wisdom or secret instructions. Raising his hands, our hero casually adds that bad deeds always catch up to people eventually, telling them to just thank their parents for their hard work. Lady Marie looks bewildered, confused by the simplicity of his message. Nina repeats the phrase softly, trying to uncover some hidden strategic meaning behind his words. Unaware of their overthinking, our MC just smiles warmly and confirms that simple words of encouragement are enough. The two sisters sit in stunned silence, deeply moved by what they interpret as absolute confidence in their family's victory. Meanwhile, back at the cathedral, concerned priests question the archbishop about hiding away and missing public services. However, the archbishop stands firm, declaring that they've chosen to trust Lord Shikoku's words and will not alter their strategy. Listening nearby, a veteran guard officer grips his fist in frustration, scoffing at the idea of trusting an outsider's foresight. Sweating in annoyance, the guard officer internally grumbles that Shikoku is just a newcomer pulling claims out of thin air. He paces down the corridor with his fellow knights, convinced that waiting around based on a stranger's rumor is a complete waste of time. The officer remains confident that nothing will happen and that Shikoku is simply spouting plausible lies. Standing guard in the quiet cathedral, he grows increasingly impatient as the minutes tick by without any sign of trouble. Gritting his teeth in irritation, he fumes over being forced to participate in what he considers a pointless exercise. An hour passes with zero activity, making the officer scoff as he prepares to abandon his post and return to normal duties. An hour and a half later, he begins pacing back and forth, completely convinced that the entire operation was a mistake. 2 hours pass in peaceful silence as the archbishop reads documents while his wife calmly enjoys her tea. The guard officer grits his teeth in utter frustration, fully convinced that Shikoku made fools out of all of them. Just as he mutters how stupid this is and prepares to walk away, a knight suddenly bursts through the cathedral doors, shouting in panic. The officer stops dead in his tracks, his eyes wide with shock as he turns to hear the news. The messenger frantically reports that members of the new religious organization are marching directly toward the cathedral with protest signs. He warns that the mob intends to stage a massive demonstration at the front entrance or even attempt a full takeover. Hearing this, the archbishop instantly takes charge, commanding units 1 and 2 to move from the back exit toward the right wing. Raising his glowing staff, he orders units 3 and 4 to block the left wing, demanding that not a single attacker be allowed to escape. With complete composure, the archbishop declares that he will personally provide a dignified response to all of the opposition's false claims. Standing tall before his fully armed knights, he calls upon everyone present to witness the truth. Inspired by his leadership, the holy knights roar in unison and surge forward to execute the trap. Standing in disbelief, the skeptical guard officer breaks into a cold sweat, completely stunned that Shikoku's prediction came true to the letter. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the reception room where our protagonist finds himself facing a brand new dilemma. Sweating inside his armor, our hero stares at the mountain of treasures before him and tries to explain that he can't accept such a massive reward. However, both Marie and Nina desperately plead with him to take the chests of gold and rare jewels, claiming it will ruin their standing if he refuses. Looking down at the sparkling treasure chests sitting on the table, our MC sighs internally, caught in another awkward situation. Desperate to repay him, Nina lowers her head and begs him to accept the reward just this once. Watching him refuse, Marie realizes that revealing the truth about Shikoku having zero interest in material wealth. She marvels at his pure selflessness, remembering how he risked everything to save Nina without asking for a single thing in return. Firmly closing the lid of the massive chest, our hero repeats that taking all of it would be far too much. Reaching out, he takes only a single gold coin and the small jewelry box containing the Holy Church's official crest. Shrugging casually, our MC admits that receiving too much wealth actually terrifies him, so he refuses to take another copper. Both sisters sit frozen in utter disbelief, rendered completely speechless by how little he chose to keep. Clearing his throat, our MC smoothly changes the subject, asking Nina if her parents still plan to visit him in person. Nina instantly perks up, eagerly confirming that her parents' visit has already been officially scheduled. Hearing that confirmation sends a wave of panic through our hero, flinching inside his helmet. Noticing his sudden stiff posture, Marie wonders if a visit from the archbishop is somehow inconvenient for him. Raising 2 fingers, our MC decides to lay down 2 firm ground rules to shut the visit down. First, he declares that the single coin and crest seal are already more than enough payment for his troubles. Second, he refuses to accept any further favors, explicitly stating that there's no reason for her parents to make the trip. As the sisters try to protest about proper social etiquette, our protagonist quickly cuts in before they can argue. He points out that prominent religious leaders like her parents surely have much more important duties to attend to. Marie blinks in surprise, caught off guard by his sudden mention of her parents' duties. He argues that high-ranking officials shouldn't waste their precious time traveling just to thank him when they have a church to run. Naturally, our MC internally cries, admitting to himself that he has absolutely no clue what an archbishop actually does all day. The 2 sisters put their fingers to their chins, completely overthinking his vague statement as deep political insight. Sweating inside his helmet, our hero adds that he'd rather her parents use their valuable time for the good of the city. Gesturing toward the treasure, He explains that leaving the gold behind allows the church to put it toward a much greater purpose. He claims that seeing the church grow stronger is a far greater reward, as it ultimately empowers the backing of his crest seal. Staring down at the glowing emblem in its velvet box, he frames the decision as a strategic move to boost his own political influence. Both sisters stare at him in stunned silence, completely blown away by his noble and calculated reasoning. Sighing softly, Marie bows her head in defeat, promising that the church will put the returned treasure to meaningful use. Nina turns to her sister in shock, surprised that Marie gave up on pushing the reward so easily. Marie explains that respecting Shikoku's wishes is paramount, leaving our hero immensely relieved that his plan worked. Suddenly, Marie recalls Lifia teasing her in the past about Shikoku only using wealth to help those in need. Remembering how Lifia playfully teased that Marie might actually be Shikoku's exact type, a sudden realization hits her. A massive blush instantly explodes across Marie's face, turning bright red all the way down to her neck. Panicking internally, Chibi Marie frantically shakes her head, blaming Lifia for putting such embarrassing thoughts in her head. Unaware of her internal crisis, our MC reaches into his pouch to retrieve one last item before they leave. Extending his heavy gauntlet toward Nina, he reaches out to drop something directly into her waiting hands. Nina looks down in wonder as a shiny, ornate golden key drops softly into her palms. Our hero casually reveals that it's a spare key to his mansion, prompting Nina to gasp in utter shock. He explains that he has far more room than he needs, inviting them to use the estate as a safe haven whenever they need to escape. He mentions that he gave matching keys to Lifia and Karen, encouraging the sisters to use the mansion as a meeting spot. Overwhelmed by his generosity, Nina stares up at him with wide, teary eyes, breathless from the gesture. Unable to contain her emotions, Nina lunges forward and tightly hugs our armored hero, crying happy tears as she thanks him with all her heart. Watching him give away keys so easily, Marie realizes that handing out mansion access isn't something an ordinary noble would ever do. She ponders that Lifia must have been keeping her own spare key a secret from everyone this entire time. As Nina hugs him happily, our MC turns to Marie and calls out her name. Flustered, Marie flinches as her heart begins to pound, nervously asking what he wants. Smiling warmly, our hero tells her she doesn't need to hold back here, admitting he actually prefers her genuine, unrefined self. Shot through the heart by his direct compliment, Marie blushes wildly, while Nina cheerfully teases her for getting flustered. After gathering themselves, the two sisters offer a deep bow, thanking him for today as the maid wishes them a safe trip home. The carriage wheels clatter against the stone driveway as the guests finally take their leave. The maid quietly watches from the doorway until the carriage fades into the distance. With the guests gone, she firmly shuts the double doors, bringing quiet back to the estate. Walking down the grand corridor, the maid reflects on how intimidating this master usually is. She recalls how even the powerful Lord Digoat was reduced to a stressed mess in his presence. Stopping outside his door, she reminds herself to maintain flawless etiquette so she never displeases him. Taking a deep breath, she reaches out and softly knocks on the wooden door. From inside the room, RMC's voice casually calls out, telling her to come in. Entering politely, she reports that Marie and Nina have departed, and our hero thanks her for her hard work. Noticing his slumped posture, the maid wonders if he's exhausted, though she assumes it must just be her imagination. She asks if he wore his full heavy armor during the entire meeting, and our hero chuckles, claiming it was necessary. Overthinking again, the maid assumes there must be some brilliant strategic reason behind keeping his armor on during tea. Our hero mentions giving the sisters spare keys to the mansion, but gets surprised when the maid calmly accepts the news without shock. The maid reveals that Nina was so thrilled with her key that she repeatedly unlocked and locked the front door on her way out. Laughing warmly, our MC finds Nina's childish excitement endearingly typical for someone her age. The maid adds that Lady Marie left with an extraordinarily favorable impression of him, even expressing a desire to visit again soon. Our protagonist chuckles, humbly assuming her kind words were just polite flattery. However, the maid assures him it wasn't flattery at all, noting she has never seen Lady Marie look so genuinely happy. Our MC rationalizes that Marie was just relieved to finish her duty, but the maid asks if his own eloquence was what moved her. Waving his hands in embarrassment, our hero quickly denies being eloquent at all. Noticing the maid giving him an unusually intense stare, our MC asks why she's looking at him so suspiciously. She quickly denies anything, though secretly marvels at his ability to make even top nobles yield. She remarks that manipulating political figures must feel like child's play to someone of his stature, leaving our MC totally confused. Sighing inside his helmet, our protagonist honestly admits that he wishes he possessed that level of calm composure. The maid interprets his casual response as even further proof of his absolute, unflappable confidence. She reflects on how he used gentle warmth to win over the young sisters of the Ansage family, while using ruthless pressure against Lord Digoat when necessary, showing he can switch personalities at will. Sweating nervously, the maid silently prays that his ruthless side has never turned against her. She vows to quickly adapt to her master's extraordinary standards to avoid any possible mistakes. Now backed by two of the most powerful crest seals in the realm, our hero's political standing reaches unprecedented heights. The maid shivers in awe, realizing just how terrifyingly brilliant her new master truly is. Meanwhile, inside the departing carriage, a giddy Marie excitedly gushes to Nina about how Shikoku prefers her real self. Squealing with joy, Marie blushes as she recalls his happy smile, while Nina frantically warns her sister to keep her voice down before the guards hear her. Marie laughs off her sister's warning, blushing brightly as she tries to downplay her excitement. Nina teases her further, reminding Marie how terrified and trembling she was right before they met Shikoku. Marie immediately retorts, telling Nina that she shouldn't be talking after obsessively playing with her new key. Sparks fly between the two sisters as they puff out their cheeks and glare at each other in playful rivalry. Reaching out her hand, Marie demands that Nina hand over the key so she can hold onto it safely. Clasping the key tightly against her chest, Nina loudly shouts no, refusing to surrender her precious gift. Marie insists it's no time to be stubborn, but Nina yells back that Shikoku gave this key to her personally. Giving a heavy sigh, Marie gives up, warning Nina that she'd better take full responsibility if she loses it. She teases Nina that despite looking composed, she can actually be a total clumsy klutz at times. Realizing her sister is right, Nina freezes in silent realization as sweat drips down her face. Chibi Nina trembles anxiously, suddenly feeling terrified at the thought of losing her special key. Panicking, Nina immediately hands the key over to Marie, who smiles warmly as she takes it for safekeeping. Looking out the window, Marie marvels at how incredible Shikoku was, seeing through her fake act in an instant. Nina reminds her that their father warned them Shikoku would see right through her, though Marie admits she half doubted it. Sweating slightly, Marie admits she only survived the encounter because she strictly followed orders to let him lead. She ponders if Shikoku's incredible intel on the cult means he possesses an information network spanning the entire city. Nina softly suggests that the anonymous tipster who exposed the new religious group might have been Shikoku all along. She explains that his excuse about not taking responsibility fits his style, making it likely he orchestrated the whole lead. Nina cleverly points out that him warning their parents not to visit proves he knew a cult attack was imminent. Marie finds it hard to believe, noting that infiltrating a secret cult is nearly impossible for a recent newcomer. However, Nina reminds her that Shikoku already proved his class infiltration skills when he rescued her. Hugging her arms, Marie argues that he seems far too busy to go out of his way to infiltrate a cult for them. She reasons that if he went that far, he'd be a saint and surely would have accepted their family's grand reward. Nina smiles softly, pointing out that Shikoku simply isn't the type of person who acts for material rewards. Marie remembers how he helped them previously without asking for a single thing in return. Recalling his warm, gentle smile, Marie feels her heart throb in her chest as her face turns red. Blushing, Marie softly admits to Nina that Shikoku really is cool and that she was saved by an incredible person. Nina chuckles, mentioning she said that many times, but Marie admits she just realized the truth all over again. Outside, the carriage speeds along the forest road surrounded by their heavily armed escort knights. Arriving at the cathedral grounds, they find holy knights standing in full battle formation with drawn swords. Sensing the tense atmosphere outside, Marie peers through the window, wondering what transpired while they were away. Seeing Marie's dark and tense expression, Nina shrinks back in fear at her sister's sudden aura. Marie's eyes glow with lethal focus as she prepares for the worst. Pulling Nina into a tight, comforting hug, Marie tells her little sister not to worry as she protects her. Outside, an escort knight rides up alongside the moving carriage to deliver an urgent message. The knight knocks on the carriage window, prompting Marie to pull back the curtain. Looking out, Marie immediately demands an update on the situation at the cathedral. The knight reports that thanks to the foolproof plan, the cult's attack was completely crushed without spreading rumors. Hearing that the operation was an absolute success, both sisters glow with immense relief and joy. However, back inside the cathedral, their father sits on his throne, angrily roaring at them for bringing the treasures back. Seeing Mary's frustrated face, her mother speaks up softly, trying to soothe her daughter. Marie crosses her arms and acknowledges that her parents ran countless simulations to handle the situation properly. She admits they wanted to give him a massive thank you gift, but frantically insists that it was literally impossible. Standing before her parents' thrones, Marie boldly declares that Shikoku saw through a fake act the very instant she tried it. She admits she was played like a fiddle, stating it's impossible to win an argument against someone who controls everything. Her parents sit in silent shock, sweating nervously as they listen to their usually sharp daughter confess defeat. Sighing deeply, her father gives in, knowing that if Marie speaks this highly of someone, it must be true. Marie points out that they should have expected this, as Shikoku maintained complete control over the interaction. She then looks up at her parents and asks if they still intend to force a reward on him after hearing her report. Her mother gives a warm smile, confirming that they still intended to show proper gratitude. However, Marie drops another bomb, revealing that Shikoku already predicted their intentions and gave her a direct message for them. She quotes him word for word, stating he specifically warned that visiting his mansion would be a complete waste of time. Her father gasps in utter disbelief, asking if he really said that, while Marie swears on her faith that it's true. Marie reenacts the moment, quoting Shikoku asking why they're wasting time on rewards when they have actual work to do. She explains that Shikoku urged them to focus on improving the city instead, adding that they need to become much stronger. Her father sweats nervously, realizing Shikoku implied that their current political backing isn't powerful enough yet. Mary encourages them to see the bright side, noting that Shikoku clearly sees potential in their family for the future. Seeing both of her parents slumped over in sheer stress, Marie rests her case as to why she couldn't give them the gifts. She chuckles softly, marveling at how Shikoku's insane foresight gave her the exact words needed to convince her parents. Reflecting on his words, Marie realizes there was an underlying challenge hidden beneath his advice. With a confident smirk, she interprets his message as a challenge to prove their true resolve by making the city thrive. Summing up her report, Marie confirms they reached a mutual agreement, and her parents warmly thank her for her hard work. Perking up, Marie remembers one final message that Shikoku asked her to deliver to them personally. She relays his words, thanking both of her parents for all of their hard work on various matters behind the scenes. Hearing those words, a heavy silence falls over the Grand Cathedral Hall as both parents freeze on their thrones. Imagining Shikoku giving them a casual thumbs up, both parents break into a cold sweat at his terrifying reliability. Her mother sighs, admitting she would dread having him as an enemy, and acknowledging his high standing in Verthal. Marie stares seriously, suspecting that Shikoku holds an exceptionally high-ranking position within Verthal's hierarchy. Shifting back to business, Marie asks if they managed to uncover any information regarding the cult's mastermind. Her mother reveals that based on captive interrogations, they leaked details to force the mastermind to flee the city. Marie gasps in anger and shock, demanding to know why they are letting the enemy escape instead of arresting them. Her father explains that cornering the cult completely might provoke desperate retaliatory attacks against Shikoku. To prevent fanatical followers from targeting their savior out of revenge, leaving an escape route open was the safest option. Marie frowns in annoyance, begrudgingly accepting the strategy even if it means letting malicious villains run free for now. Later that night, under the glow of the twin moons, the scene shifts to a cozy local tavern in the city. The bartender looks at our hero in confusion, asking why a wealthy noble like him is eating at a budget tavern instead of a luxury restaurant. Happily eating his cheap meal, our MC chuckles and admits he prefers local spots because high-end places are way too expensive. The bartender complains that a guy as loaded as him shouldn't be complaining about prices, while our hero insists he knows the value of money. Giving him a completely deadpan stare, the bartender looks at our protagonist in disbelief. Pausing with his spoon mid-bite, our MC listens as the bartender accurately points out that he prefers spending money on others rather than himself. The bartender points out that our MC gave him a huge sum of money earlier, making his complaints about prices sound ridiculous. Our hero defends himself, explaining that the payment was for sheltering the girls, though he privately admits he could only afford it thanks to the reward. The bartender complains that local rumors now claim he is Shikoku's equal and exclusive informant, leaving him in a tough spot. Laughing heartily, our MC tells him to endure the hardships together, earning an annoyed glare from the stressed tavern owner. Suspicious, the bartender asks if our hero planned all of this behind the scenes, but our MC calmly denies plotting anything. Holding his neck in stress, the bartender sighs that his stomach ache is killing him, convinced Shikoku is operating underground. Perking up, our hero mentions he has a universal medicine back at his mansion and offers to give one to the proprietor. He recalls packing a massive stash of purple potions when he rescued Nina from the cult's hedyat. Recognizing the description of the item, the bartender's face immediately goes pale with sheer dread. Screaming in shock, the bartender asks if it really works on everything, while our hero proudly guarantees its effectiveness. Sweating profusely, the bartender tries to process what kind of insane potion our hero is casually offering. He shouts that a legendary high-tier elixir shouldn't be wasted on a simple stomach ache, but our MC insists it shows his appreciation. Crying out in fear, the bartender begs our hero not to value him so dangerously, admitting he's terrified of him. Pointing frantically at our MC, the bartender demands to know how he still possesses such rare and powerful medicine. Ignoring his panic, our hero mentions having one last gift, prompting the bartender to slam his hands down and beg him to stop. Our MC slams a heavy pouch containing over 2 million legil onto the counter to fully settle his debt for sheltering the girls. Looking horrified, the bartender backs away, insisting he can't accept such an enormous amount of money. Clasping his hands in prayer, our hero pretends to sympathize with his refusal. Suddenly casting a dark, ominous shadow from beneath his helmet, our MC menacingly asks what might happen if he rejects the gift. Flashing an innocent smile, our hero claims he can't say it out loud, terrifying the bartender into complete submission. Fearing for his life, the bartender desperately snatches the muddy bags, while our hero warmly thanks him. Holding the heavy pouch of gold, the bartender stares down at it in silent disbelief. Pausing mid-drink, our hero looks up as the bartender calls out to him one last time. The bartender warns him to be careful carrying such massive sums of money around town. Our MC blinks in confusion, wondering why the bartender is suddenly worried about him. The bartender chuckles, realizing that any robber stupid enough to target Shikoku would end up getting brutally destroyed anyway. Our protagonist stands there with question marks floating over his head, completely oblivious to his own terrifying reputation. Waving a friendly goodbye, our hero takes his leave while the bartender waves back. Looking back at the massive pouch of gold under his counter, the bartender's composure completely breaks. The barmaid looks over in confusion as her boss suddenly reacts to the money. Overcome with emotional relief, the bartender drops to his knees, crying happy tears over his newfound wealth while the barmaid freaks out. Meanwhile, context reveals that the Holy Church was established within the Ansage family line. Using their holy authority, the church frequently weeded out rival cults and rogue religious movements. To smear the church's reputation, the new religious group formed a secret alliance with the criminal syndicate, Red Freed. Far away inside a hidden cave, torchlight illuminates a secret meeting of the cult's inner circle. Standing over a tactical map, the cult leader shouts in disbelief upon learning that their grand cathedral demonstration failed. A female operative admits that their entire operation was leaked, revealing that holy knights were waiting behind the cathedral. Another operative grits his teeth, realizing their hired mercenaries were captured and are currently being interrogated. Looking at his hands in despair, the cult leader wonders where their master plan could have possibly gone wrong. That's when an operative reveals that Shikoku of Verthal intervened, sending shockwaves of terror through the cult as they recognize the monster who wiped out Red Freed. Operatives explain that Red Freed supplied intel out of a shared grudge against Shikoku, though they never anticipated their trap, failing so badly. The orange-haired member speaks up, pointing out that being lured into a counter-trap means their plan with Red Freed was exposed from the start. Leaning over the map, he nervously raises the terrifying possibility that Shikoku might have placed a spy directly among them. The blue-haired leader scoffs at the suggestion, telling him he's being far too paranoid. The female operative agrees, insisting that they all gathered here with a common goal to crush their shared enemies. However, another member accuses the orange-haired cultist of trying to stir up internal conflict, sparking an intense argument between them. The blue-haired leader loudly claps his hands together to instantly cut off the fighting. He demands everyone calm down and stop falling for Shikoku's psychological games. The female member points out a photo of the local tavern owner, revealing rumors that he acts as Shikoku's exclusive informant. She explains that the proprietor received a massive reward from Shikoku, making it likely he supplied the intel that ruined their cathedral raid. Furious, the cult members slam their hands on the table, blaming the innocent tavern owner for ruining their years of planning. The cult leader rubs his chin, carefully weighing their options. The female member reminds the group that Red Freed gave them a specific request before leaving town. She explains that Red Freed wants them to crush one of Shikoku's key associates to create a distraction and draw his attention away. In exchange, Red Freed promised to repay the favor later by obliterating the Insage family for them. A dark, sinister smirk spreads across the cult leader's face as an evil idea takes shape. He reasons that while fighting Shikoku directly is suicide, slaughtering a simple tavern owner will be ridiculously easy. Though one female member feels a bad omen and suggests fleeing, the rest of the group scoffs at her hesitation. The male cultists laugh off her worries, agreeing that attacking a soft target at night before fleeing town is the perfect revenge. Determined to vent her frustration after years of planning went down the drain, the female member reluctantly agrees to join the raid. Clenching her fist, she decides they have no choice but to follow through with the attack. Pulling up her black mask, she prepares to execute the assault on the tavern. The four masked cultists gear up with swords and staves, confident that Red Freed will finish off the church in their place. Adjusting his mask, the leader commands his squad to move out immediately. Meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the cult's plan, our MC walks through the quiet night streets lost in thought. He recalls the bartender's casual warning about wealthy people being targeted by muggers. Sweating inside his helmet, our hero suddenly panics, realizing the bartender's words might mean criminals are actively hunting him. Looking around the empty street, he internally regrets walking around alone at such a late hour. Crying inside his armor, he grumbles that the bartender should have given him that warning much sooner. Walking down the dark alleyway, his heavy footsteps echo off the stone walls. He regrets not staying overnight at the inn, but admits going back now would look completely ridiculous. Laughing nervously, he tries to reassure himself that no random thug would be foolish enough to jump him. Despite his nervous thoughts, our hero instinctively readies himself for trouble. Reaching down, his gauntleted hand firmly grips the hilt of his sword. Drawing the blade slightly, a surge of brilliant blue magic ignites along the steel. Unleashing his full power just in case, a massive storm of glowing blue aura erupts around Shikoku, turning him into a walking raid boss. Sweating inside his helmet, he realizes that looking this intimidating would probably get him reported as a villain if anyone saw him. Still, he hopes that flare-up of terrifying power will scare away any potential muggers lurking in the dark. Suddenly, our hero detects multiple presences dropping into the alley and turns around. The four masked cultists drop from the rooftops, only to freeze in sheer horror as they find themselves face to face with the terrifying Dark Knight himself. Our MC breaks into a cold sweat inside his helmet, realizing with sheer dread that these masked figures are targeting him. Desperate to avoid a fight, he tries to think of the most terrifying, badass line possible to intimidate them into running away. Striking an imposing pose with his glowing blue blade, Shikoku menacingly calls them out for daring to reveal themselves. He taunts them out loud, claiming that sending only 4 attackers against him shows they are severely underestimating his power. Hearing his arrogant taunt, the cult leader grits his teeth in pure rage from under his mask. Furious, the leader shouts that Shikoku is the sole reason their grand plans were completely ruined. Our hero tries to clarify that it's a misunderstanding, but the leader tells his 3 comrades to flee while he holds Shikoku off alone. However, his loyal comrades draw their weapons, stubbornly refusing to abandon their leader in battle. Drawing his katana, the orange-haired member declares that they've come too far to desert him now. The remaining members stand firm, resolving that defeating Shikoku is their only remaining chance to survive. Our hero panics internally, watching his intimidation bluff backfire spectacularly and unite his enemies. Raising his hands defensively, our MC begs them to stop and talk it out, insisting there's a massive misunderstanding. The leader angrily points out that asking to talk while gripping a glowing lethal weapon makes his offer sound like a total joke. Seeing all four cultists power up their magic aura simultaneously, our hero realizes a full-blown battle is now completely unavoidable. Staring at his opponents, he wonders if he can pull off a high-level game skill combination in real life. Activating his equipped skill, 11th Hour Critical, Shikoku drops into a low Aijutsu stance as swirling blue energy surrounds his armor. The cult leader shouts for everyone to prepare their ultimate attack, while our hero quietly begins counting seconds in his head. The female mage immediately casts a powerful red defense barrier around her allies. Reaching 3 in his internal countdown, our hero watches the cult's swordsman unsheath his blade. The orange-haired member casts physical and magical enhancement buffs as the count reaches 4. The leader activates super physical enhancement, charging forward with a terrifying red aura as Shikoku counts up to 7. Watching them charge in perfect sync, our hero recognizes the exact team buff animation from the original game. He remembers that his equipped weapons skill, Black Blade Dirahand, requires a strict 15-second charge time before unleashing its attack. Reaching 12 seconds in his count, our hero tries one last desperate plea, asking if they'll just hear him out. The leader screams at him to shut up, forcing our hero to accept fate as his countdown reaches 14. All four cultists leap into the air simultaneously, combining their full power to strike Shikoku down. Shikoku's eye flashes as he prepares to release his charged attack just as they reach him. Reaching 15 seconds, the charge completes right as the cultists descend upon him. With lethal focus, our hero eyes his targets and initiates the strike. Shikoku unleashes a colossal vertical swing, cutting through the night with a blinding wave of blue energy. The sheer force of the shockwave instantly tears through the cultists' combined magical defenses. The female mage gasps in utter horror as her ultimate defense barrier shatters like glass. A massive explosion of blue magic erupts through the alley, blasting all four attackers backward. The female mage tumbles helplessly through the air as her staff flies out of her hands. All four cultists crash heavily onto the stone pavement, instantly knocked unconscious and disarmed. The residual shockwave rips through the street, obliterating nearby stone structures and causing massive destruction. Looking at the sheer level of carnage he just unleashed, our MC breaks into a terrified sweat inside his helmet. The massive blast wakes up nearby townspeople, who step outside in their pajamas to investigate the noise. Shikoku stands alone in the middle of a completely destroyed, cracked street as horrified citizens stare at him in shock. Glancing sideways at the growing crowd of witnesses, our protagonist sweats profusely, realizing he just caused a major public disaster. Following the explosive battle, the four cloaked attackers lie utterly defeated and groaning amidst the flooded stone ruins. Standing amidst the destruction in his heavy dark armor, our protagonist lets out a weary, exhausted sigh under the night sky. As curious citizens and guards gather in shock, our MC awkwardly tries to convince himself that destroying the bridge wasn't actually his fault. By the following morning, news of the chaotic late-night incident rapidly spreads across the entire city. Newspapers report that an armed group targeted an innkeeper connected to Shikoku, only for the entire stone bridge to be demolished in a single counterattack. The four captured culprits are brought in handcuffs, exposed for secretly collaborating with Red Freed to undermine the Ansage family. Even the guards assigned to interrogate the prisoners look completely stressed out by the sheer gravity of the situation. The entire city quickly realizes Shikoku crushes his enemies without hesitation, earning him a reputation as the one man nobody should ever cross. Inside the holy sanctuary, the young nuns read the news and learn that Shikoku personally captured the fugitives who were on the run. The sisters can't help but gush over his incredible efficiency, praising him for effortlessly resolving such a dangerous plot. However, one sister suddenly brings up a very practical question, asking who is actually going to cover the massive repair costs for the ruined bridge. The senior armored nun quickly reassures her, explaining that since Shikoku acted purely in self-defense, he won't be held financially responsible. Still, the younger sisters find it a bit strange, noting that someone as masterclass as Shikoku usually handles things much more quietly. Feeling their intense, suspicious gazes locked onto her, the senior nun immediately begins breaking into a nervous sweat. Realizing she can't hide anything under their sharp glares, she nervously admits that there is actually more to the story. She reveals that the ringleader was directly connected to Red Freed, leaving the two young sisters completely stunned. The senior nun speculates that Shikoku deliberately unleashed such overwhelming force as personal payback for Red Freed's past actions. To her, this ruthless display was a clear, terrifying warning to the enemy syndicate never to lay a finger on them again. She explains how Red Freed had been secretly controlling a religious cult to cripple the Ansage family from within and steal their power. Thrilled by this heroic narrative, one sister blushes with affection while her companion deadpans at her completely shameless fangirling. As the sister daydreams about whether Shikoku is single, her companion points out that someone keeps mysteriously stealing the spare key to his estate. The senior nun nervously tries to play innocent, but the young sister demands that she be completely honest about it. When accused of trying to break into his mansion alone, the flustered senior nun insists she only leaves the key on his pillow so they can rest together. The young sisters end up teasing each other relentlessly, both blushing wildly over their shared, undeniable crush on Shikoku. Meanwhile, the senior nun glows with delight, sinking deep into her own romantic fantasy about the dark night. Elsewhere in the city, grateful townspeople bow respectfully and offer their heartfelt thanks to Shikoku as he walks past. By the following afternoon, the scene shifts to a peaceful, sunlit room where our protagonist sits enjoying a quiet cup of tea. His maid pours his tea while frankly pointing out how surprisingly merciless and over the top his actions were the previous night. Our MC nervously tries to defend himself, while the maid admits she expected him to cause chaos, just not this quickly. Overwhelmed by her brutal honesty, the poor guy sheds hilarious tears of total embarrassment. Trying to change the subject, our flustered hero quickly thanks her for managing all the official aftermath behind the scenes. The maid smugly overthinks the whole situation, convinced he blew up that specific bridge just to test her administrative abilities. Shocked by her wild misinterpretation, our MC panics, but she quickly cuts in to ask him a question of her own. When she asks if her performance was satisfactory, he warmly praises her, relieved she didn't drag him out of his room to deal with it. Deeply moved by his approval, the maid places a hand over her heart and smiles in complete satisfaction. She then offers to act as his official representative for all future matters, which our MC gratefully agrees to. Internally, our hero panics, having had absolutely no idea those 4 attackers were tied to a cult or a syndicate in the first place. As the maid prepares to leave the room, our MC stops her to ask a burning question that has been bugging him. Hesitantly, he asks the one question that matters most to him. What actually happened to the repair bill for the bridge he broke? He admits that the sheer terror of facing a massive fine kept him tossing and turning all night long. The maid reassures him that he won't have to pay a single copper for the bridge repairs, leaving our MC completely stunned. She explains that they officially framed the entire incident as an unavoidable act of self-defense, leaving him amazed by how smoothly it went. She admits there was plenty of pushback from angry locals who questioned how blowing up a whole bridge could possibly count as reasonable self-defense. Yet the authorities quickly approved it after being ominously asked if they were accusing Lord Shikoku himself of lying. Our MC points out that sounding like a veiled threat, but the maid calmly insists she was merely asking for clarification. She assures him that since the issue is officially resolved, nobody will bother questioning him any further. She adds that if he ever does get summoned for questioning, he should inform her immediately so she can handle the situation. She explains that the repair costs are being fully handled by the powerful 3 factions, with the church and Ansage family taking the lead. Hearing this, our MC internally realizes that the high authorities are essentially using their massive influence to silence any complaints. Shaking his head frantically, he decides it's better not to overthink how terrifyingly powerful his political allies really are. When he asks about the bridge's progress, the maid reveals that mages are already fixing it and should finish the repairs by tomorrow. Hearing that work is underway, our MC decides to personally buy refreshments for the workers as he promised earlier. He declines her offer to send a messenger, preferring to handle things himself so he doesn't become overly reliant on high authority figures. Accepting his choice, the maid asks if he intends to wear his armor out into the city, to which he confirms he will. She politely wishes him a safe trip as he prepares to head out into the busy city streets. When he genuinely thanks her for all her hard work, the maid blushes furiously, trying to brush off his gratitude. Out on the busy streets, pedestrians begin whispering in hushed, nervous tones as a formidable figure approaches. Dressed in his iconic heavy dark armor, our MC walks through the city while everyone stares at him in sheer awe and fear. Behind his terrifying helmet, our hero is internally screaming under the overwhelming weight of their intense glares. He only wore his full armor as a safety precaution against potential assassins, but he immediately regrets his decision. He realizes that to the public, he looks like an arrogant powerhouse strutting around town right after destroying public property. Crying comical tears inside, he wishes his maid had warned him before letting him walk outside looking like an intimidating villain. He mentally apologizes to the citizens, lamenting that he never meant to break the bridge and only swung his sword in self-defense. Determined to repair his public image, he vows to act as gentle and humble as possible so nobody thinks he's arrogant. He reminds himself to keep a low profile, completely unaware that a sinister figure in the alley is watching his every move. Shaking off his anxiety, he finally arrives at his destination to purchase the promised treats for the bridge workers. To make the best possible impression, he decides to buy high-end pastries that cost 50,000 Lijul a box. Clenching his fists in determination inside his heavy armor, he steps right up to the store counter. The bakery door opens and a terrified employee nervously welcomes the infamous Dark Knight inside. Visibly trembling with fear, the young clerk stammers and begs him to wait just a second. Before he can even utter a word, the terrified girl dashes into the back room to escape him. Realizing that his terrifying reputation preceded him, our MC shades tears of despair inside his helmet. Left completely alone at the counter, he stands awkwardly in his bulky armor waiting for someone to return. Soon, the store manager rushes out with a nervous smile, while our MC assumes the poor guy thinks his shop is about to be leveled next. Seeing the manager handle his order personally, our MC feels even more self-conscious about his terrifying reputation. The manager tries his best to maintain a polite smile while internally praying that Shikoku didn't come to cause trouble. Our MC requests 5 boxes of their finest sweets, prompting the manager to immediately offer him a private VIP room to wait in. Our protagonist tries to politely decline, assuring the manager that waiting at the counter is perfectly fine. However, the manager bows so low his head almost hits the floor, desperately begging him to wait in the private room instead. Completely mistaking the manager's utter terror for exceptional high-end customer service, our MC awkwardly agrees and complies. The manager politely guides him through the store into the back area while our MC follows closely behind in his heavy dark armor. Reaching a beautifully decorated door, the manager gestures for him to step inside the private room. As the grand doors swing open, our protagonist steps into an incredibly lavish, opulent room fit for high nobility. Polished glass tables and luxurious furniture fill the space, causing our MC to murmur a polite apology as he enters. Impressed by the grand room, he compliments the decor, and the manager invites him to have a seat while she prepares his order. Realizing he was led into an exclusive VIP lounge, our MC awkwardly turns down her offer of complimentary drinks and snacks. Feeling completely suffocated by the fancy atmosphere, he finds it impossible to relax and nervously calls out to the manager. He asks if someone like him is really allowed in a private lounge reserved for high-value regulars, prompting her to explain the situation. She reveals that Guild Master Panlord issued a strict directive across all affiliated shops to treat Lord Shikoku with top-tier hospitality. Hearing the Guild Master's name, our MC is completely confused since he doesn't recognize who Panlord is at all. He assumes this Panlord guy gave the order out of fear, wanting to prevent Shikoku from leveling his shops the way he destroyed the bridge. Before he can process that, the manager mentions that a second directive was issued alongside the first. She drops a bombshell by revealing they were ordered to report to the Guild Master immediately whenever Shikoku visits, alarming our hero. She adds that since Panlord's estate is nearby, the Guild Master himself or his representatives might arrive at any moment. Hearing that high-ranking figures are on their way to meet him right now, our MC internally freaks out. Wanting to escape before anyone arrives, he frantically begs her to hurry with his order and even promises a tip. The manager apologizes, explaining that properly verifying and packaging high-end sweets takes time. Sweating profusely, our MC realizes the manager is stalling for time because he is nowhere near mentally prepared to face a guild master. Suddenly, the private room door slams wide open with a loud bang, startling both him and the manager. A loud voice shouts out from the doorway, pointing directly at our startled protagonist. To his surprise, a bright blonde young girl bursts into the room with her arms wide open. Beaming with joy, the girl named Remy announces her arrival as she charges straight toward him. She leaps into a hug, slamming headfirst into his solid metal breastplate with a loud thud. As she clings to his waist, our MC asks why she's here, and Remy reveals she rushed over as soon as she heard he visited. Confused, our protagonist asks if she has some kind of connection to the commercial guild. Smiling brightly, Remy proudly reveals that her father happens to be the leader of the entire commercial guild network. The sudden revelation hits our MC like a truck, causing him to metaphorically spit blood from absolute shock. While Remy snuggles up to him happily, our poor hero stands frozen in sheer disbelief over who her father is. The manager bows respectfully nearby while sweat drips down our protagonist's heavy metal armor. Noticing his complete silence, Remy tilts her head up at him in confusion. Realizing how she barged into a VIP room so easily, our MC nervously addresses her as Miss Remy and asks where her parents are. She blushes and insists he just call her Remy since he is special to her, but he flusteredly declines. As she pouts, our hero internally panics, knowing his life is on the line if anyone discovers he's just an ordinary guy inside this armor. Steering the conversation back on track, he asks her again where her parents currently are. Remy admits she ran off alone the moment she received the report about his arrival, leaving her servants behind. Proud of her solo expedition, she looks up at him with sparkling eyes and asks if he thinks she's impressive. When she eagerly asks again, our blunt protagonist simply responds that he has no idea. Unfazed, Remy proudly declares that he should just start considering her impressive from now on, leaving him speechless. Slumping onto the lavish sofa in sheer mental exhaustion, our MC lets out a deep sigh while telling her he's glad she's doing well. Hearing his gentle words, Remy hums happily to herself, beaming with utter joy. Remy sits cheerfully beside him on the sofa, mentioning how grateful she is for the special medicine he gave her previously. Seeing her so healthy, our MC smiles gently inside his helmet, feeling glad that using the rare medicine was worth it. When the shop staff returns with his pastry boxes, our MC awkwardly asks Remy to move off him, but she flatly refuses. The manager steps forward with the packaged sweets, announcing that the total cost for all 5 boxes comes out to 200,000 legel. She bows low to apologize for taking up his valuable time, offering an extra complimentary gift as an apology. Accepting the gift, our MC internally gasps at the insane price tag of 200,000 legel just for some pastries. Remy looks at the heavy bags in surprise, asking him if he really loves sweets that much. Our MC explains that they're gifts for the bridge workers, but when Remy mentions he blew up the bridge, he desperately argues that it merely broke during battle. Pulling out his muddy pouch, our protagonist prepares to pay the steep bill for his purchase. However, Remy suddenly reaches out and grabs his gauntleted hand, stopping him from pulling out any money. Remy tells the manager, Diva, to put the entire charge on her father's tab, which the manager politely accepts. Our MC flusteredly insists on paying for the sweets himself, but Remy stubbornly shuts him down. Internally, our hero freaks out, refusing to owe a massive favor to the powerful commercial guild over something he can afford. Diva politely bows and refuses to take his money, explaining that since Lady Remy stepped in, the store cannot accept payment from Lord Shikoku. Impressed yet exasperated by her political dominance, our MC realizes Remy is even better at flexing her family authority than his other noble acquaintances. Behind his helmet, he admits to himself that despite her cute appearance, she really behaves like a true merchant noble when it counts. Remy proudly recites her father's golden rule of merchant work, which is to trap people under as many favors as possible, leaving everyone speechless. Our MC awkwardly advises her never to say that ruthless business tactic out loud again, and Remy obediently agrees to keep quiet. Giving up on arguing, our MC officially accepts her offer and quietly thanks Remy for covering the massive bill. Realizing that arguing with this duo is a complete waste of energy, he takes his pastry bags and bids them farewell. As he tries to hurry out before her powerful father arrives, Remy grabs onto his arm and asks where he's going. Upon learning he's delivering gifts, Remy immediately tugs on his armor and declares that she is coming along with him. Our MC panics internally, worried that walking around town with the guild master's daughter will spark crazy rumors and draw even more unwanted attention. He gently tries to convince her to stay behind, but Remy reminds him that he agreed to keep her safe today. Our protagonist freezes in utter confusion, wondering when he ever made such a promise. Noticing the distinct lack of security around her, he asks if that's why she brought no guards, only for her to reveal she even sent her carriage away. As Remy looks at him with sparkling eyes, our MC nervously tries to explain that he never actually promised to act as her bodyguard. Catching him off guard once again, Remy tilts her head and repeats her favorite question. She smiles sweetly, adding that if he protects her, they get to spend a lot of time together, leaving our hero utterly flustered. Completely defeated by her undeniable charm and stubbornness, our MC tearfully admits that she might be a little impressive after all. Beaming with joy, Remy tightly locks her arm in his as they begin walking out of the bakery together. Behind his terrifying dark visor, our poor protagonist cries tears of regret, wondering how his life keeps escalating into chaos. As they exit the shop, the manager calls out to Remy, asking her to send her warmest regards to Guild Master Panlord. Diva bows respectfully through the window, telling Lord Shikoku that they eagerly look forward to his future visits. Our hero bids her farewell with a polite nod, secretly hoping he never has to do something like this ever again. The manager watches them leave with a warm, content smile on her face. Leaving the shop behind, our MC strides down the cobblestone street with pastry bags in hand while Remy waves a cute goodbye to the staff. As they walk together through the city, Remy suddenly grows quiet and looks up at him with a nervous expression. She fidgets with her fingers and blushes, looking visibly anxious about something she wants to say. Pouting with a cute tick mark on her head, she suddenly calls out to get his attention, prompting our MC to turn around in surprise. Remy glares at him with blushing cheeks, annoyed by his hesitation to hold her hand. As she continues staring intensely at him, our MC grows deeply confused, wondering what the issue is. Reaching out, she aggressively extends her tiny hand straight toward his heavy metal gauntlet. Blushing intensely, she pouts and tells him that she's willing to hold his hand if he wants. Our MC blinks in surprise while Remy impatiently demands to know if he heard her generous offer. Hearing her claim she's doing him a favor by letting him hold her hand, our hero wonders why she's acting so tsunder. Internally, our MC ponders if holding hands in quiet areas is fine, given that Remy is a young lady of high noble status. He realizes he needs to be extremely careful around her in public so her powerful family doesn't hold him liable for anything. Remy warns him that she might wander off in crowded streets, cheekily claiming she won't be responsible if he gets lost. Sweating profusely, our MC realizes she's basically using threats just to force him to hold her hand. She looks at him with a mischievous blush, asking if he has a problem with her logic. Giving it, our MC admits that holding her hand makes it much easier to keep her safe while walking through the city. With a heavy, defeated sigh, our poor protagonist prepares to accept his fate. He extends his large gauntlet toward her, telling her she can hold his hand now. Remy eagerly reaches out and wraps her delicate fingers around his cold, hard armor. Surprised by the texture, she notes that his gauntlet is hard, prompting him to deadpan that soft armor wouldn't protect anyone. Realizing holding the sharp metal might hurt her hand, she gently adjusts her grip while noticing something about his hand. When he offers to let go so she doesn't get hurt, Remy threatens to wander off again, forcing him to keep holding on. To his surprise, Remy meekly complies and holds on tight, prompting him to comment on how suddenly agreeable she became. She puts a finger to her lip, explaining that she's willing to compromise, which impresses our MC. She explains that her father taught her the importance of compromise in business, proving how deeply merchant principles were ingrained in her. As they walk together through town, our MC praises her upbringing, remembering that her weak body kept her bedridden for years. Remy reveals that because she was sick in bed for so long, studying was her only way to pass the endless time. Hearing her tragic past, our MC feels a surge of sympathy and understanding for her. Though her words were heavy, seeing her smile so brightly next to him warms his heart. Seeing her walk energetically and enjoy life makes him truly happy that he was able to save her with his medicine. He realizes it's only natural that a girl who was trapped in bed for years would want to run away and explore the world. Acting like a wise mentor, he gently advises her to keep studying, assuring her that knowledge is something she'll never regret acquiring. Remy turns her head away with a pout, stubbornly declaring that she just wants to play every single day instead. When our MC tells her to finish her work before playing, Remy grumbles that he sounds just like her strict tutors. He softly reassures her, explaining that her family's strictness is only proof of how much they love and care for her. Realizing she has probably heard that lecture 1,000 times, he chuckles awkwardly to himself. As they stroll along, our MC considers that going out every day after being bedridden must be exhausting, right as Remy speaks up. Right on cue, Remy pants heavily and admits that she's already completely worn out from walking. Surprised by how quickly she tired out, he asks if she assumed they were going to ride in a carriage all along. Remy sluggishly nods, admitting that as a noble, walking long distances on foot was never part of her plan. Realizing his oversight, our MC apologizes profusely, explaining that he's so used to walking that he forgot to hire a carriage. Remy insists she can keep walking, but our MC urges her to find a carriage before she completely collapses from fatigue. Remy smirks and casually suggests that if her legs give out, he can simply carry her on his back like he did before. Panicking at the thought of carrying her in front of the whole town, our MC desperately pushes for a carriage, while Remy cutely insists on a piggyback ride. Sweating inside his helmet, our MC agrees and mentally resolves to keep a sharp eye on her so he can call for help immediately if her condition worsens. Barely a moment later, Remy dramatically places a hand on her forehead and complains that she's tired already. Knowing his medicine fully restored her stamina, our annoyed MC urges her to keep walking for her own health instead of faking fatigue. Seeing that her little trick didn't work, Remy smiles mischievously and agrees to walk a bit further on her own. Strolling into the bright sky, our hero notes that Remy doesn't seem bothered by his stern attitude at all. Unsurprisingly, Remy still gets her piggyback ride long before they even reach the site of the broken bridge. Meanwhile, at the restoration site, birds chirp peacefully near the stone walls under the bright morning sun. A panicked worker rushes to his boss with terrible news, reporting that the god of destruction and Lady Remy are heading their way. Inside the headquarters of Melandum, the magic enterprise handling the bridge repair, executives watch the pair through a magical projection. The purple-haired chief executive stares in utter disbelief, baffled by the strange sight of the terrifying Dark Knight giving a piggyback ride to a young noble lady. Seeing the bridge destroyer alongside the daughter of their financial sponsor, the assistant nervously asks if they received any advance notice of an inspection. The assistant nervously speculates whether the pair arrived unannounced to check if the magic construction crew is cutting corners. Realizing their official sponsor might be conducting a surprise audit alongside a walking calamity, the chief executive breaks into a cold sweat. Shaking her assistant in a blind panic, she screams that they could never afford to cut corners under such terrifying scrutiny. She knows that despite Melandum's stellar reputation, the high authorities backing this project have enough power to wipe out her enterprise in an instant. With so much on the line, underestimating the bridge destroyer or their sponsor is simply not an option. Biting her gloved thumb in high anxiety, she realizes they have no choice but to head out and personally greet their terrifying visitors. To her, the armor titan carrying the noble girl represents a ticking bomb holding both the firestarter and the detonator. The worst possible combination. Taking drastic measures, she orders the entire crew to switch to high-grade mana infusion for the rest of the construction, shocking her assistant. The assistant protests that spending such high-grade resources was never part of the original project plan. He points out that using mana infusion will completely destroy their profit margins and drain their workers' magic reserves dry. Overriding his complaints, she commands everyone to power through it and promises to supply high-grade recovery potions immediately. The poor assistant clutches his head in despair, unable to believe the absurd lengths they are going to impress their unexpected guests. Mana infusion coats structures in a magical barrier to make them immensely sturdy, but the technique drains an astronomical amount of magical energy. Convinced this is a surprise audit, the chief executive reasons that over-delivering on quality is the safest way to survive and boost their company's standing. To motivate the crew, she promises generous monetary bonuses and a lavish wrap party if they successfully complete the task. Unable to argue any further, the assistant lets out a weary sigh and accepts his commander's orders. He rushes out of the office in a panic to gather the construction workers and deliver the frantic new instructions. Reaching the construction area near the broken bridge, he calls all the workers together for an emergency briefing. With a nervous sweat drop on his face, he announces the drastic sudden change in plans to the entire workforce. The exhausted workers stare back in utter disbelief, horrified by the brutal demand to pour all their remaining magic into the bridge. Having no choice, the mages kneel on the stone and begin channeling their precious mana directly into the bridge's foundation. Meanwhile, as the chief executive steps outside to meet the visitors, she suddenly gasps in shock at what she sees. She knows Lady Remy is harmless on her own, but seeing the terrifying Shikoku emit an even more ominous aura than the rumors suggested terrifies her. Sensing his crushing pressure, she wonders if Shikoku possesses a magical artifact that amplifies his dark aura based on the fear around him. Stealing her resolve, she decides to focus entirely on greeting Lady Remy to maintain her composure as chief executive of Melandum. Taking a deep breath, she opens the door and finally comes face to face with the towering armored knight and the young noble lady. Placing a gloved hand over her chest, she offers a polite, elegant greeting to welcome both Lord Shikoku and Lady Remy. Remy cheerily greets her back, while our MC raises his massive gauntlet and offers a low, polite greeting of his own. Nervous sweat dripping down her face, the chief executive introduces herself as Oliva, the head of Melandum leading the bridge restoration project. Sweating inside his heavy dark helmet, our MC awkwardly utters a bare minimum greeting. Oliva assumes his brief greeting is a power move, internally marveling at how only true powerhouses can get away with giving away zero information. Looking at the towering knight, she breathes a sigh of relief that Lady Remy is present to buffer the overwhelming tension. Polite as ever, Oliva asks Lord Shikoku what brings him to the restoration site today, catching our hero off guard. Internally, Oliva grumbles that his impenetrable armor makes it impossible to read his face or predict his true motives. To her utter shock, our MC presents the pastry bags and explains he simply came to drop off refreshments for the hard-working crew. He apologizes for causing so much trouble with the bridge destruction, offering the expensive sweets as a sincere token of remorse. Surprised by his unexpected gesture, Oliva accepts the bag and thanks him for his thoughtful consideration. Peering inside the bags, she immediately suspects that dropping off snacks is just a cover for some sinister hidden agenda. Spotting the logo on the boxes, she realizes these are ultra-luxury pastries from the famous Leland Bakery. She gasps at the sheer opulence, knowing a single box costs tens of thousands of legel, meaning he brought hundreds of thousands of legel worth of food. Having handed over the gifts, our MC apologizes for the interruption and turns to leave while Remy waves a cheerful goodbye. Oliva's mind reels in horror, convinced he conducted a lightning, fast magical inspection of the entire construction site in just seconds. Realizing he actually had no hidden motives and just brought snacks, she panics over forcing her crew into doing millions of legel worth of free mana infusion. She clutches her head in sheer panic, unable to cancel her high-cost construction orders without ruining her company's reputation. If word leaked that she canceled the high-quality restoration over a misunderstanding, Melandum's stellar reputation would be completely destroyed. A terrifying thought crosses her mind, suspecting that backing her into this financial trap was Shikoku's true plan all along. She realizes he used a mere few 100,000 legel in pastries to trick her into providing several million legel worth of free magical upgrades. To her, he pulled off a flawless, aggressive negotiation strategy despite owing her company absolutely nothing. She marvels at what kind of terrifying mastermind could manipulate an opponent he knew nothing about so effortlessly. Refusing to be utterly defeated, she resolves to strike back financially to defend Melandum's professional pride. Reaching out toward the departing duo, Oliva calls out to stop Lady Remy before they walk away. Both our MC and Remy freeze in their tracks, turning back in complete confusion. Behind his visor, our hero wonders what could possibly cause the chief executive to stop them so urgently. Steeling herself, Oliva points out that maintaining continuous mana containment on the bridge for hours takes extreme resources. She explains that sustaining such intentional restoration requires a massive supply of high-grade mana recovery potions. Glancing directly at Lady Remy, Oliva notes that the daughter of the commercial guild head is standing right in front of her. Oliva apologizes for the sudden request and asks Lady Remy for a massive logistical favor on behalf of the commercial guild. Curious about the request, Remy nonchalantly agrees to hear her out. Oliva requests an immediate delivery of 10 full mana recovery potions and 50 medium recovery potions directly to the construction site. Remy casually agrees to order the 60 rare potions immediately, prompting a deeply relieved thank you from Oliva. Oliva marvels at Remy's casual authority, astounded by how effortlessly the young noble manages high-value merchant logistics. To Oliva, Remy perfectly embodies the terrifying efficiency and vast influence of the commercial guild leadership. She misinterprets Shikoku's hasty exit as another genius tactic, believing he rushed her so she'd buy the potions from Remy without haggling over price. Remy calculates the grand total, including emergency transportation fees, and demands 4.2 million legel on the spot. Oliva sheds tears of despair inside, realizing the entire 4.2 million legel bill is coming directly out of her own pocket. Seeing her distress, Remy generously allows her to pay later, while our MC gasps internally at the staggering 4.2 million legel figure. Full mana recovery potions cost 150,000 legel each, while medium potions cost 50,000, explaining why mana containment is so absurdly expensive. Adding emergency transportation fees for fragile high-grade potions caused the total price to skyrocket to 4.2 million legel. Oliva stares at Remy in awe, thoroughly impressed by how accurately the young girl calculated complex merchant pricing on the fly. Remy firmly warns Oliva to face the consequences if she misses a delivery deadline, leaving the chief executive trembling in fear. Crying comically inside, Oliva realizes the transportation fee matches the cost of Shikoku's pastries, convincing her he planned this whole economic move. Our MC praises Remy for securing a major potion deal for her family guild, admitting he had no idea she was managing merchant business. Remy looks up at him with a deadpan stare, deciding it's not even worth explaining that she just wanted to flex her influence. She internally overthinks his comment, believing Shikoku saw through her refreshments cover and calculated the exact potion profit margin. Completely oblivious to her wild overthinking, our hero tilts his helmet in utter confusion. Oliva grumbles internally, feeling utterly outplayed by what Shikoku called a simple humble apology. She realizes economic pressure is how Shikoku intimidates powerhouses, which only ignites her fierce competitive spirit to beat him. Refusing to admit total defeat, Oliva frantically searches her mind for a way to turn the tables in her favor. Oliva calls out to Shikoku, inviting him to test the strength of their legendary mana containment technique firsthand. Intrigued, our MC asks if it's similar to armor reinforcement, but hesitates since he wants to order his bridge gifts first. Remy tugs on his leg armor and eagerly begs to see it too, prompting Oliva to inwardly celebrate her perfect assist. With Remy joining in, our MC gives in and agrees to test out the strength of their magic wall. Our protagonist steps forward, accepting her challenge as long as it won't damage any of their construction progress. Oliva secretly cheers in triumph, confident that her magic defense will easily withstand his blow and redeem her pride. Carrying Remy on his back, our MC asks how he should test it, and Oliva instructs him to strike the barrier lightly with his sword. She smirks internally, knowing that mana containment turns plain stone as hard as steel, believing even the god of destruction won't scratch it. Placing a hand on his hilt, our MC hesitates, while aware that his ridiculously sharp blade will slice right through plain stone. Misunderstanding his hesitation as doubt, Oliva smugly assures him that his attack won't leave so much as a single scratch. Feigning admiration, our MC marvels at her confidence while the workers enjoy the pastries he delivered. Oliva touches a stone block, determined to force him into a corner, just like he rushed her earlier. Channeling her magical power, she coats a giant stone block in an intense, glowing purple aura. Remy holds tight to his neck as they watch the stone block absorb an enormous amount of condensed magic. The reinforced stone block shines with incredible power, completely encased in a near-impenetrable barrier of mana. Oliva chuckles to herself, eager to shock the legendary knight with her company's ultimate defensive creation. She proudly gestures for him to strike the block, while our MC politely thanks her for going through all this trouble. While the workers cheer over the delicious pastries from Lord Shikoku, Oliva assures him that preparing the test was no trouble. In her mind, she's already drafting marketing slogans, planning to advertise that their barrier left Shikoku himself completely speechless. She envisions gaining massive fame, wealth, and prestige for Millennium once news breaks of her barrier stopping the god of destruction. She smiles as she imagines using the massive company profits to give her hard-working crew huge bonuses. Telling Oliva he's ready, our MC gently sets Remy down in a safe spot away from the test area. As our hero reaches for his hilt, Oliva mockingly reminds him to strike smoothly so he doesn't chip his own sword. Drawing his blade from its scabbard, the steel glows with a fierce, crackling blue aura. Internally, our protagonist's sweat drops, realizing he didn't mean to unleash this much energy. Holding his overflowing blade, he announces that he will give the magic-reinforced stone a try. Without applying any force at all, he simply rests the glowing edge of his blade against the stone block. Our MC lets out a soft breath, hoping this light touch won't cause any real damage. Oliva watches with a confident grin, waiting for his sword to bounce harmlessly off her ultimate barrier. He grips the pommel firmly, preparing to give it just a tiny nudge. With a casual, gentle flick of his wrist, he glides the glowing blade straight through the reinforced stone block. With a clean sound, the giant magic-infused stone block effortlessly slides apart into 3 perfectly severed pieces. Remy stares in absolute shock, her mouth agape at the impossible feat. Dead silence fills the construction site as everyone stares at the flawlessly sliced magic barrier. Not understanding why everyone went quiet, our oblivious MC looks around in total confusion. Oliva stands frozen like a statue, her jaw practically hitting the ground as her brain breaks trying to process what just happened. Unable to accept reality, she frantically rubs her eyes, wondering if she's suffering from a wild hallucination. Seeing the barrier get effortlessly sliced, Remy looks down with a dark, disappointed expression, assuming she severely overestimated Millennium's capabilities. Panicking for her company's survival, Oliva desperately waves her hands and begs Lady Remy not to lose faith in her magic technique. She frantically insists that her mana containment is a proud, flawless technique that turns soft stone as durable as solid iron. Yet despite her proven track record, Shikoku's effortless slice completely shattered her credibility in front of her main sponsor. What terrifies her most is that Shikoku didn't even use magic enhancement. He literally just let his sword fall against the block. Desperate to cover, Oliva stammers that it's not her barrier that failed, but rather Shikoku who performed an unexplainable divine feat. Under Remy's cold, judgmental stare, Oliva screams in frustration, begging the young noble not to treat her like a liar. She turns to Lord Shikoku with clasped hands, pleading with him to help salvage her company's ruined reputation. Crying inside, Oliva remembers bragging that it wouldn't leave a scratch, knowing she must fix this misunderstanding at all costs. Leaning in close, she frankly begs Shikoku to confirm that the block felt at least somewhat sturdier than normal stone. Shaking his armor in desperation, she repeatedly begs him to validate her technique, causing our hero to sweat. To her utter horror, our blunt MC awkwardly admits that he couldn't feel any difference or resistance at all. Hearing his blunt answer, Oliva's soul literally leaves her body as she screams in total mental breakdown. Seeing Remy's glare grow even darker and more disappointed, Oliva realizes her commercial relationship with the guild is on the verge of total collapse. She knows the Alberta Commercial Guild values trust above all else, meaning Remy views a failed product demonstration as an unpardonable breach of trust. As Oliva shakes in sheer panic, our MC starts feeling terribly guilty for unintentionally ruining her business standing. Stepping in to diffuse the heavy tension, our hero calls out to Remy to calm her down. Our MC wisely explains that watching someone else test a product is completely different from testing it with your own hands. He adds that different people produce different results, encouraging Remy to test the magic stone's durability herself. Picking up a small ordinary stone from the ground, he tells her that true verification requires personal experience. Taking his advice to heart, Remy nods cutely and agrees to try the test herself. He hands her a small stone and holds another in his gauntlet, instructing her to hit his stone with hers. Holding the rock tightly in her hand, Remy prepares to strike with a super serious expression. With a cute grunt, she swings her tiny arm and taps her stone against the one in his hand. Amazed by how weak her hit was, our MC asks if she was being serious, and Remy insists she used her full strength. Examining the rock, Remy notes that the unenhanced stone got easily scratched and chipped from the light impact. Our MC points out that even her weak hit easily scratched a regular, unenhanced stone. Turning back to Olive, our MC kneels down in his heavy armor to ask her for a second demonstration. He hands Oliva the small stone, asking her to cast her mana containment spell directly onto it. Delighted by the chance to redeem herself, Oliva channels her purple magic into the tiny rock, mentally warning herself not to mess up. Once the stone glows brightly with protective mana, our MC thanks her and turns back to instruct Remy for round 2. Holding the magic-infused stone firmly in his gauntlet, our hero encourages Remy to do her best this time. Putting her full body weight into it, Remy smashes her rock directly against the magic-enhanced stone. Showing her the pristine, undamaged magic rock in his hand, our MC points out that the mana containment completely protected it from scratches, leaving Remy genuinely impressed. Our MC explains that this is why personal verification matters, and a blushing Remy admits she learned a valuable lesson. Remy bows respectfully to Oliva and apologizes for doubting her, causing the flustered chief executive to beg her to raise her head. Impressed by her humility, our MC gently praises Remy, noting that knowing how to apologize despite having immense power makes her a good person. Beaming with joy at his praise, Remy blushes and generously offers to let him pat her head as a reward. Our modest hero awkwardly turns her down, worried that patting her head in public will make him look like an arrogant big shot. Hearing his humble comment, Oliva exasperatedly thinks that he's already a big shot, resolving to cover for him no matter what. Chuckling awkwardly, our MC commiserates with Oliva, noting how tough life can be for both of them. Oliva blushes in surprise, politely thanking Lord Shikoku for his unexpected sympathy. Oliva wonders if he was secretly sympathizing with the struggle of managing a high-maintenance noble like Lady Remy. Bidding her farewell, our MC thanks Oliva from the bottom of his heart and entrusts the remaining bridge restoration to her. Turning to Remy, he tells her it's time to head back, and she happily agrees. Watching them leave, Oliva realizes Shikoku granted her immense favors and connected her to the guild, acknowledging she could never match his grand vision. Slumping to the floor in mental exhaustion, she sighs and admits that 4.2 million legio was a small price to pay for such a valuable lesson. As sunset coats the city in warm light, Remy comfortably rides on his back and invites him inside her family's mansion. Our MC nervously declines, terrified of having to meet her father, the supreme ruler of the commercial guilds. Pouting slightly, Remy asks why, promising that her family will treat him to endless delicious snacks. Politely accepting the sentiment, he urges her to focus on reporting her successful business deal to her parents instead. He gently tells her that it wouldn't be right to intrude when her family is about to be busy handling the potion shipment. Clinging tightly to his neck, Remy begs him to stay with her, assuring him that her report won't take long at all. Feeling guilty, our MC lies and claims he has urgent errands to run, leaving Remy grumbling that he should have told her sooner. Curious, Remy asks if his work involves his secret job as an intelligence agent, reminding him of what he claimed earlier. She cutely stops herself, remembering her tutors warned her never to pry into classified secret agent work. Panicking internally over the fact that he's actually unemployed, our hero awkwardly agrees that work is tough for everyone. Remy generously offers to have her father supply him with rare weapons, magic items, or anything else he needs for his work. Our MC insists his shadow organization provides everything he needs, causing Remy to admire his humbleness even more. Looking up at him with burning determination, Remy declares that she won't lose to his shadowy organization. Raising her arms high, she vows to grow stronger and build her family guild so that Shikoku can rely on her one day. Looking at him with deep affection, she softly thanks him for saving her life and giving her a real dream to chase. She vows to gather rare medicines and help sick people in need, exactly the way he stepped in to save her. Touched by her noble ambition, our MC smiles warmly, confident that her pure dream will bring prosperity to her family guild. Looking at her with genuine affection, he silently prays that she keeps her pure, compassionate heart forever. To reward her noble ambition, our MC invites her to visit his house next time so he can give her a special gift. Overjoyed, Remy excitedly begs to go to his house right now, forcing our sweating hero to remind her that he has errands today. Pouting with curiosity, Remy demands to know what the present is, but our MC chuckles and keeps it a surprise. Eager to get her gift, Remy asks to visit tomorrow, and our MC gladly agrees since his schedule is completely free. Cheering with unbridled joy, Remy tightly hugs his neck and urges him to take her home so she can prepare. Carrying the happy young girl on his back, our MC walks through the warm sunset toward her family estate. Reaching her mansion, Remy bursts through the front doors with a triumphant shout, announcing her return. Waiting inside the hall, her father, Guild Master Panlord, and her mother look at her with nervous sweat drops on their faces. Crossing his arms with a stern yet exasperated expression, her father gently scolds her, asking if there isn't something more proper she should say after running away. Remy's older sister immediately smacks her on the head, scolding her for running away without permission. Rubbing her sore head, Remy pouts and tearfully begs her father to scold her older sister for hitting her. Her father sighs, pointing out that she deserved it for sneaking out without a single bodyguard to protect her. Her sister agrees, while their father softens up, relieved that Remy made it back home safe and sound. Panlord looks around and asks why Lord Shikoku isn't with her, assuming the Dark Knight walked her home. Remy mentions Shikoku walked her the gate, but left immediately for Verthal work, causing Panlord to freeze in shock. Both her father and sister freak out, shouting in disbelief over the news that Shikoku is involved with Verthal. Covering her ears from their loud shouting, Remy grumbles that Shikoku never actually mentioned Verthal by name. She explains he only said he had errands to run and could get whatever he needed, which led her to assume he was on Verthal business. Panlord strokes his mustache in deep thought, agreeing that only a Verthal operative could make such a bold claim. Remy beams with pride and announces that she successfully secured a massive potion supply contract for the broken bridge restoration. Panlord is surprised to hear the contract is for the very bridge they are funding, while Remy adds that payment will arrive later. Confused, Panlord wonders why simple bridge repair would ever require 60 high-grade mana recovery potions. Remy mentions Shikoku ordered mana infusion on the bridge, leading Panlord to believe Shikoku forced the construction crew in a high-level magic work. Her older sister listens intently, realizing how deeply Shikoku's influence shaped the entire transaction. Panlord shudders at Shikoku's ruthless economic tactics, asking Remy if she stayed by his side all day long. Walking over to his desk, Panlord prepares to take immediate action on the potion contract. He reaches down and places his hand on a glowing blue communication crystal to contact his distribution network. Speaking into the crystal, Panlord orders his guild to immediately assemble and dispatch all 60 recovery potions to the stone bridge. The commercial guild's massive success stems from their instant magic communication and vast emergency inventory, allowing them to fulfill major orders instantly. Surprisingly, Panlord instructs his staff not to accept payment from Shikoku, telling them instead to inform him that he owes the guild a favor. Hearing this, Remy looks at her father in confusion, asking why he's refusing to take Shikoku's money. Panlord explains that while taking payment yields immediate profit, putting a powerhouse like Shikoku in their debt is worth far more in the long run. Her older sister hugs Remy warmly, praising her for securing such a golden opportunity for the guild. Laughing cheerfully, her sister lifts Remy up in the air, showering her with affection and praise. Panlord watches his daughters celebrate with a proud, heartwarming smile on his face. Yet internally, Panlord wonders how Shikoku knew the guild wanted a connection with Melandum, amazed by how he engineered a win-win scenario for Remy. He sighs in defeat, realizing that despite their best efforts to repay Shikoku by covering bridge costs, the Dark Knight still managed to place them deeper in his debt. Panlord then casually asks Remy what else she and Shikoku talked about during their walk through town. When asked for details, Remy cheerfully drops a massive bomb, revealing she promised to visit Shikoku's house tomorrow to get a present. Both her father and older sister instantly freeze, turning pale with absolute shock and horror. Panlord panics, giving her permission to visit but strictly forbidding her from accepting any present from the Dark Knight. Remy stubbornly pouts and refuses, arguing that Shikoku specifically told her it was completely fine to accept. Panlord clutches his head in despair, terrified that his innocent daughter is being effortlessly manipulated by a master strategist. Her older sister steps in with a nervous sweat drop, begging Remy to listen to reason. Throwing a full-blown temper tantrum, Remy flails her arms and screams that she is definitely getting her present no matter what. Struggling to hold her kicking sister, the older sister cries out her father that Remy has officially entered her unstoppable, won't listen mode. Panlord clutches his heart in agony, knowing they can't force her to break a direct promise made to Lord Shikoku. Remy continues her furious stubborn crusade, pumping her fists in the air and screaming at the top of her lungs. Completely defeated, Panlord holds his throbbing head and puts the discussion on hold until his wife returns home to deal with their stubborn daughter.